Jeff Lawson, what do you make of it? He just squeezed into that chair. It's been broadened slightly during the tea break by a man even bigger than you.
I look like you sitting in here after Martin Johnson's been sitting here. He's a big lad.
Colossal, isn't he? How do you fancy running that at you at full tilt?
They can't run without heads, I believe. I think you'd want to go low there, Eggers.
Oh.
He's a lovely man.
Yeah.
And very fine player. And with the Australians after tea have actually run onto the field, and you were talking to Martin about the belief you've got to have and the body language and all that sort of thing. The Aussies, they've been smashed. I mean, and Bill Frindle's just given us the stats there, but they've been smashed before the tea break, and yet they ran back on the field. They're trying to make a point that, okay, well done England, but
start again now.
Here we are after tea break, and we'll get stuck into you. And I would have thought that both Peterson and Flintoff, they should have run out there as well, because they didn't want to stop. They didn't want the tea break to come along. They just want to keep batting. It was extraordinary stuff.
It was. And it's quite an interesting start. This Gillespie's been trusted to bowl after tea. He's had a pretty difficult day. Mind you, it hasn't been a particularly easy day for any of the seam bowlers. They've all been expensive. And what's the boundary count at the moment, Bill? 4s and 6s today. I can see that we've had 7 6s. But number of 4s will be interesting to note. Let's watch the first ball first of all. Peterson's on strike. He's on 40. And in goes Gillespie. He's there. He bowls to him, and he flashes his first one on the up. So no question of playing himself in. And a tumbling stop there at mid-off by Martin keeps Peterson down to 1, who's now playing more shots than Zorro with his flashing blade. Look at him down here at the non-striker's end. He's whirling his arms, he's swinging his bat.
He didn't ask the centre, he said, on guard. that was Zorro-like, wasn't he?
Amazing.
It was
first ball after tea.
44s and 7 6s.
He had the épée and he was advancing down the runway towards his opponent.
Well, look at the field too. There's a deep point, a deep square leg and a long leg. There's still a slip at the gully. No one at third man. That might interest Flintoff, as Gillespie goes in and bowls to him, and he comes shuffling forward and, well, circumspectly really plays that up to extra cover, and it's filled there by Clark. So it's 290 for 4 on a day really that has been balanced virtually throughout, and that England had a very good start. They got up to 112 for the first wicket. Strauss and Trescothick. Strauss was then out for 48, bowled by Vaughan. Trescothick and Vaughan put on 52 together in only 44 balls. Trescothick was out for 90, caught behind off Kastrovic. And goes Gillespie, a big jump, he bowls outside the off stump, and Flintoff's out. He's caught behind, I heard it from here, and that's just the breakthrough that Australia wanted. And Gillespie, who's had a very difficult time on this tour, is the man who's made the breakthrough. Flintoff not moving his feet, pushed outside the off stump. The ball found the thinnest of outside edges, and Gilchrist took the catch, moving in front of first slip. It was a straightforward chance for him. He made no mistakes, and that's what Australia want. Flintoff's out for 68, and it's 290 for 5.
And in many ways, that's just a huge letdown. I mean, I was looking forward to Andrew Flintoff continuing on where he left off with those 5 6s before tea, and as he walks off, the bat is, well, it's draped just constantly over the shoulder. It's not a healthy raise of the bat. It's a disappointed look, and well, it happens after a break. I mean, cricket, tea breaks, drink breaks, we see wickets fall all the time, and the batsmen have to start again. And we just finished saying how they didn't want to go off for tea. They wanted to keep batting and keep playing and keep in that rhythm. And I mean, that was a useful delivery, fast enough, good length, just outside off stump. And Flintoff managed to catch up with it. And before tea, you're seeing that behind point for 4. But you've still got to get back into the game, don't you? You've sat down for 20 minutes, had your cup of tea, had your scones, and
dash back your seat again.
Relaxed a bit, and then you've got to start again. And that's just classic cricket. And I've got to say, Jonathan, that's really disappointing. I was looking forward to Freddie Flintoff getting 100 in the most extraordinary fashion. And
look at these people coming into their seats now. They've missed it. They're wandering back from the stalls behind the stands. We've been huge queues out there all day, and they'll now see Geraint Jones taking guard on 290 for 5. There's a nice picture just now of Flintoff's wife and little daughter, Rachel and Holly, respectively, giving Daddy a little ovation there as he walked off. But Daddy didn't look best pleased, actually. Bat rather at half-mast as he walked off, disappointed. That was Gillespie's 250th Test wicket. And he's on his way now and bowling to Geraint Jones, whose father's here all the way from Brisbane. and he allows that first ball to go through outside the off stump. 290 for 5. It wasn't a good shot from Flintoff, if we're honest. Very leaden-footed.
Yeah, as I say, before tee, but he was playing that shot and was going for 4 behind point or through cover, but yeah, the feet just weren't there after the break, and that was a great 60. He was one of the best 60s you've ever seen.
Good old Gillespie. I mean, he looks very pleased. Gilchrist did give him a hug. In goes Gillespie. He's there. He bowls outside the off stump. Jones isn't to be tempted.
But good on Gillespie as well. I mean, he's battled and in many ways, well, he was in the starting team before McGrath got injured anyway. But he hasn't been in the best of form, and he's come back today, and that's a big wicket in the context of today's play. I dare say in the context of the game, because we just don't know what's going to happen in Test cricket anymore. But in the context of today, it's a really big wicket.
You look at the batting to come: Giles, Hoggard, Simon Jones, and Harmison. Australia know that. Got the chance here of getting their way through this order. He goes Gillespie. He's there. He bowls to Jones, who covers up and defends, and plays that up to point where Clark fields. And Gillespie looks a happier man, I must say. After that, he's taken an important wicket. He'll really feel now that he's back in the swing of things, that he belongs, and he'll feel entirely different to how he did even 10 minutes ago. 290 for 5. Peterson's still there, of course, on 41. And Jones has yet to score.
And then 250 wickets in Test cricket is quite a landmark. At around about 25, he gets his wickets, 25 and a half or so, and that's a fairly significant thing. I think number 6 on the all-time Australian list, and that does put Jason Gillespie's career in context. He's been one of Australia's best.
Now it's going to be Kastrovic who bowls from the far end. And Ponting here, as he does, busily setting his field. It's going to get right here for Peterson. As a third man, it looks as if Point is going out to the boundary. See, I had this theory after Lords, and you can disagree by all means, Jeff, that because of the way Peterson plays, I'd like to see him batting one place higher, because all that happens if he loses if he loses Flintoff as a partner, then Ponting can do this. He can set the men back. He can block off Peterson's dangerous shots, knowing that Jones is a decent player, but if he were to go as well, that you're down to Giles, and that the opportunity of all that Peterson really can do is to play shots then on, and you can block him off. I'd like to see Peterson batting at 4.
And I think if he does finish 60 or 70 not out and runs out of partners here, we may see a change of plan. But when you're making your Test debut, as you did at Lords, and now your third innings in Test cricket, I can see why they've resisted that urge to just slide him up already. But it may happen in the short term anyway.
Well, he's on 41, and in comes Kastrovic. He bowls to him. Oh, he drives that back. That was a half chance. And he'll pick up 1 run. Kastrovic there got his fingertips to it. It was difficult in that he was in his follow-through, and so just veering away to the left, and the ball was low to his right. But in the context of the situation, and given that it's Kevin Peterson just after tea, you have to put that down as a drop.
Just back to his right-hand side. He's following through a bit to his left, and just got the fingertips on. Saved 3 runs, but look, it's good to see Kevin Peterson's so circumspect after wickets being lost. Driving on the up, first ball of Kastrovic to spell after tea.
So Geraint Jones, 2 gullies for him. They've learnt that lesson, Australia. They've been studying him, and this is on the off stump, just short of a length, and Jones goes back and plays this to extra cover. And Jones, a man whose position sure was under the spotlight. He didn't have a very good game with the gloves, as we know at Lords, and he played a very loose shot in the second innings to get out. They've invested a lot in him, England. They made the difficult decision to play him ahead of Chris Reed at the end of the West Indies tour, actually, that Martin Johnson now talking about if he were to go. They'll be patient with him, I'm sure. Here's Jones going back, still looking for his first run. Clark fields in the gully. 291 for 5.
And you're tempted when you make investments in players which are in time, matches, and the other resources of coaching you do put into players you think will be long-term quality players, you do tend to stick with them, and you can understand why England have done that here.
Well, he settles down again. Kastrovic running in hard, comes up and bowls to him on about middle stump, turned away. Peterson slow to set off, but he does in the end, and Jones therefore is off the mark. 292 for 5, with a lot of play remaining today. There's still 34 overs after this, so we're looking at a cut-off at 6 o'clock again, I think, in that situation at Lords, where there may well be overs that disappear. I don't think anyone will complain today, mind you. Here comes Kastrovic, and Peterson drives up to mid-off, a crisp stroke, but no reward for him there. It goes straight to Martin in that position, 292 for 5. Kastrovic wanders back, rubbing the ball, moisture on there. Ponting chews on his gum as he does. He must get through a few sticks of it during the course of a day, because he's one of these very busy chewers. Here comes Kastrovic, and again, Peterson's coming down at him, driving, seizing the initiative, or trying to, making sure that he's the boss. But there was nothing for him there, as it was fielded at mid-on, and it's 292 for 5. Flintoff's bits and pieces, by the way, he was out for 68 from only 62 balls. He hit 6 fours and 5 sixes, and he was out in the first over after tea. Which ball in the first over was it, Bill?
The second one he faced, the third ball of the over. The partnership of 103 between him and Peterson took 74 minutes and 105 balls. The previous highest fifth wicket England partnership against Australia here was 38 between Fletcher and Knott in 1975.
Good lord.
That's at Edgbaston, that's not
Edgbaston.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, here.
Well, they've beaten that comfortably, haven't they? Now Gillespie starts a new over, and Jones comes forward to his first ball. He drives it to mid-off. Martin stops the ball there rather than fields it cleanly.
Well, they beat that in 5 hits or 6 hits, did they? Because I think they might have hit 7 sixes in that partnership.
They hit 5 because Peterson hasn't hit any.
Oh, hasn't it? Well, what's going on? Get on with it.
He will do, I think. There's still power to add for Peterson. Gillespie's there, he bowls it short. Jones likes it there, that's where he likes to cut, but it could also bring about a player's downfall, bowling at his strength, and he flashed there outside the off stump, and he missed it. And look at them all lined up there waiting for an edge from that shot in particular.
And Peterson wanders down for a chat, and I think quite rightly too. It's not Jones's job now to score quickly. It's Peterson's job, and it's Jones's job, and he's been picked in the side more for his batting than his keeping. They keep telling us that. It's your job, Geraint, to hold the end up and be there for Kevin Peterson, not score it 4 and over yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. 292 for 5. Gillespie is there, he bowls outside the off stump, and maybe Jones had learned his lesson there, because this time he just let it go through. And again, there's no run. 1 or 2 gaps still amongst the light green plastic upturned seats there. I can see it. Maybe people having a cup of tea or something. But
well, that group were tardy after lunch as well.
They were.
So you can bet they're in a corporate area somewhere.
They're in a tent, I would say.
They were slow getting back after lunch, and I think there'll be letters and dispatches about that particular lot.
Jones waits for Gillespie. There it is on the off stump. Good length. Jones comes shuffling forward, playing with a very straight bat. And Gillespie picks the ball up eagerly, starts working on it. There's a new ball due in 24 overs or thereabouts, so some way off yet. But the last new ball really didn't do very much at all, and in fact the ball really has done very little all day. There's no obvious reverse swing now. It's something you start looking for at this stage in innings. Warne spun a ball or two, but there's no real swing, or only 1 or 2 have moved off the straight all day. There's Gillespie, and that's on the leg stump. It'll be picked off, but it goes straight to the fielder. And there's no run. And you know, in the last match, if Gillespie had bowled that, it would have gone for 4.
Yes, and as Jones struck it, I thought, oh well, that's a way through to be wicket. And good shot for the batsman. Good boundary, but they've got Carriage out there keeping Billy Bowden company.
Just shows how things can change, doesn't it, for a bowler?
Oh, it can, yeah. But he has bowled. I think he has bowled reasonably better in this match so far. They certainly did at Lords.
292 for 5. Jones is on 1. Gillespie's there. He bowls. Oh, that kept a little bit low. That's interesting. And that's what we'll be looking for, I think, throughout this match. That was just short of a length. It definitely kept low at the bottom of Jones's bat, and then rolled down towards the slips. And that was the gamble that Ponting took when he put England into bat today. think the majority view, certainly of all the experts who are out there, although many of us gathered this morning.
There were a lot of experts out there this morning, wasn't there?
But I think the majority view was that the pitch would be at its best today, and that the uneven bounce would probably be exacerbated during the match. But Ponting took the chance. I wonder how much of that was bravado, and that when McGrath was scheduled to play, right, we'll stick him in, we've got the best seam bowler in the world, a good backup. And just because he got injured, they thought, well, wouldn't be much of a signal to the other chaps if we now decide to bat first.
Yeah, well, the other chaps have done the job as well when McGrath was out for over 12 months. So, look, I looked at the pitch and I'm not a local, obviously. If you just listen to me speak, you can tell that. But it's a green-looking pitch, overcast this morning, and so much of that says to your bowl. But the locals, who know the pitch a little better, are all saying bat, and they were probably right.
Kasevich comes rushing up and bowls, and Peterson drives a firm stroke, and mid-off is going to get there. There he is, rolling over and over. It's Martin, who's usually to be found in that position, and they take one, which is rather frustrating again, because Peterson's lost a strike to the first ball, and so the field will come in, and they'll now attack Geraint Jones. This is the point I was making earlier, that they can do this with Peterson now. They can just set the people a little bit deeper, give him one early in the over, frustrate him more than anything else. Kasevich bowls to Jones, who cuts and cuts hard. It's fielded there by Katic at cover point. Again, Jones's favourite shot, and once again Peterson comes down for a word with him.
Well, I don't think that deserved too much admonition, did it? I mean, that was in the slot, the nail past point, and his own field placement stopped it from going for four. That was a good stroke.
Kasevich again bowls on the off stump, and Jones comes forward to this, playing up to extra cover, and there's no run. 293 for 5. Jones has 1. Men out today, but just joining us, Trescothick for 90, Strauss 48, Vaughan 24, Bell 6, and Flintoff 68 from 62 balls, including 5 sixes and 6 fours. Up comes Kasevich, and bowls a good one. That's a very good one. Some extra bounce, and Jones has gone, edging it to the keeper. And in the last 2 overs, we've seen 1 ball keep low, and 1 bounce more than the batsman expected. Kasevich is delighted. He's taken his 3rd wicket, and England suddenly, from tea at 289 for 4, find themselves 293 for 6, and the Aussies know that lower order is now exposed.
And a good piece of bowling. You can't blame Jones. It was not a poor shot. That did bounce on him and leave him, and they're the kind of balls that you do nick, particularly when you're new to the crease. So not a lot wrong with the way Jones played the shot. In hindsight, he may have left it, but it pitched around off stump and bounced to lefty. Just a good piece of bowling. But as Jonathan said, I mean, a couple of just squatting down a bit, but that one definitely bounced. But I think bowling towards the broadcast in the pavilion end, the ball has bounced more, and they kept low at the other end. It's been consistent, and it's inconsistency that way. But 2 wickets after tea, Australia right back in the game, just when England were dominating. Jonathan's left us. Well, I better keep talking.
Well, I was going to. The schedule's a little bit awry. Let's get Henry in.
I'm here.
Busy tapping away there. Another Henry.
That's all.
293 for 6, with Ashley Giles taking guard, and Blowers to take up commentary.
Well, the complexion of the game has changed yet again. But with Peterson still out there, one cannot. I think that it's all over for England yet. 293 for 6 on this remarkable first day. Kasevich has in bowls, and Giles then pushes out onto the offside, and there is no run there. Giles, well, he's been under a little bit of a cloud, hasn't he? In the last few days, he's been accused of whinging. He certainly has had a few things to say, when perhaps he'd have been better, Henry, to take it on the chin and let his own performance do the talking.
Exactly, and a cloud somewhat of his own making, and some pressure on his home ground here.
And Kasevich it is from the city end. In bowls Giles, who goes back, cuts, and that's going away for 4. Well, that is the first point in this particular argument to Ashley Giles, who has been amazingly consistent with the bat for England over the last 2 years, averaging something like 22, which for someone coming in number 8 is not that bad. 297 for 6. Giles has now got off the mark with a good square cut for 4. And he and Peterson confer. Well, what Giles has got to do now is to try and make all the remaining England batsmen have got to try and do is to make the other end safe so that Peterson can play his strokes freely.
Absolutely, and just what Jonathan Agnew and I were talking about, it's so important that Peterson not be stranded again for the third time. Well, he actually was last man out in the first innings at Lord's, but you don't want to strand someone with a run-making capability to Peterson if you can help it, and Giles has just got to be defensive. That's all he has to do. Defend, survive, let Peterson do the run scoring, give him as much strike as possible.
Well, it's Gillespie now starting in from the pavilion end. He bowls at Peterson, it's short. Peterson pulls it, my goodness me, he pulled that powerfully away there to mid-on, and Hayden the fielder, but he had to be very quick to get down to that, because when Peterson hits the ball, it doesn't half stay hit. And it's a bit short. He went back, pulled it away, and is now practicing a stroke which would have sent it a bit wider and to the wide long-on boundary. And
a stroke that was probably more 5-iron than on drive.
Yes, indeed, absolutely. It was certainly a pull, wasn't it? A flat-batted pull. It's Gillespie again now, running in. Away from us, he's up to the wicket now, he bowls, and Peterson drives, and that goes down to mid-off, and they collect a single. They had to run through quite quickly, but it was always on, mid-off fielding well back. So, 44 to Peterson, 298 for 7, and Ashley Giles, our dear old friend the wheelie bin, takes guard at the city end of the ground and will do battle now against Jason Gillespie. More cloud after tea than we had this afternoon. A little bit of heavy stuff, slightly mildly heavy, building up over to our left. But the crowd absolutely packed in, and I must say they could see another 150 test matches and never see a day like this first one. England put into bat 298 for 6. And we're only, we haven't been going for half an hour since tea. Someone's walking around just in front of us, in fact, behind the bowler's arm, but he is now sitting down. They're politely, a pigeon hovers over proceedings, and here comes Gillespie in, bowls to Giles, who goes back, covers up, pushes out into the offside, and Clark there at cover picks up. But when have you last seen a day to compare with this?
It's hard to think. Maybe when Matthew Hayden got 380, but that was against a very modest Zimbabwe attack in Perth that had the tea break, almost 300 for 4 down. No, I'd have to put it out there on its own. It's got its own category at the moment.
It really has, hasn't it? Gillespie in now, bowls to Giles. Giles comes forward, drives into the ground, and Gillespie fields on the bounce. The only day I can remember that was comparable was at Durban in the very late 69-70, the last series South Africa played, which was against Australia, Bill Lawry's Australians, for isolation. And one afternoon in Durban, Graham Pollock and Barry Richards got in together and played as well as each other.
Oh, they could play, those two.
Not half. And I can't remember how many runs that came in the first hour and a half after lunch, but it was a phenomenal. It was 160 or something, and it was really magical stuff. But I dare say what happened before and what happened afterwards didn't quite match the excitement we've seen today. Here's Gillespie again in that Giles. It's short. Giles cracks it square on the offside, straight to Clark at cover, who fields, and there is no run. Jason Gillespie bowling with 2 slips, 2 gullies, cover mid-off, mid-on, a backward square leg, Katic, and a fine leg. And of course it was in the gully, wasn't it, that Giles was caught off rather a lame stroke. First ball in England, second innings at Lord's.
Well, yeah, it was sort of a fineish gully, that 5th slip fine gully area, and Hayden's almost there. It's not. Maybe a pacer to his left would have been the same positions.
Gillespie in, bowls to Giles. Giles pushes out into the gap on the offside. Clark closes in, doesn't pick it up. And even if he had thrown the stumps down, Giles, I think, would have been in, because Clark had a long way to come. So Giles has pinched the bowling. He's got 5. It's 299 for 6. And he and Peterson go and prod the wicket and have a word.
And just back to that remarkable run scoring in a day. The Australians have made a couple of 400s, but against modest bowling attacks, against the likes of Bangladesh and against Zimbabwe. But this run scoring has been against Brett Lee, Shane Warne, Jason Gillespie, Michael Kasprich. who have a combined total of about 900 or getting on 1,000 test wickets. We're not talking about medium pace trundlers, we're talking about people who are top-notch test bowlers.
Well, here comes Kasparovich again. He's in now. He bowls to Giles. Giles goes back, plays that back down the offside, and Kasparovich fields, and then looks round at Giles and saying, go throwing the wickets down, but really sees this little point, as Giles had both feet firmly anchored. Fast bowlers often do this. It's all part of the fun of it, isn't it? And I must say, the crowd, I'm looking over there to the Eric Hollis stand away to our right. A lot of people dressed there in pink. I don't know why they should be doing that. Here's Kasparovich in. Giles is forward. Perfectly good stroke.
Because they've got no dress sense, maybe?
Well, that's one answer. But they're all doing it. Obviously, they signify something or belong to the same club. And they're having a wonderful day anyway, and that's the main thing.
Mind you, there might be a few more friends of theirs in that category as you look around the ground with the bright green and red outfits up there as well.
There are, aren't there? You usually get all colours under the rainbow in the Eric Hollis stand. And it's where all the fun takes place. Kasparovich in, bowls to Giles, who comes forward with some authority and rolls the ball down there to mid-on, and Lee is the fielder. Pigeon flies across the RES Wyatt stand at the far end of the ground. Pigeons haven't really come and enjoyed it today. I think there's been too much noise for them. They've been a little bit put off.
They've been in danger as we're flying over the ground.
Well, this is right, isn't it? When Botham was there, they were running for cover into the neighbouring trees. Kasparovich in, bowls to Giles. Giles comes on the front foot, plays down there to mid-off, and there is no run. Martin, the fielder. 299 for 6, England. Trescothick caught Gilchrist, bowled Kasparovich 90. Strauss bowled Vaughan 48. Vaughan caught Lee, bowled Gillespie 26. Bell caught Gilchrist, bowled Kasparovich 6. Flintoff caught Gilchrist, bowled Gillespie 68. And Jones, G. Jones, caught Gilchrist, bowled Kasparovich 1. And it's Kasparovich again. He's in now. He bowls to Giles. Giles edges that between second and fourth slips and is going to get himself a fortuitous 4 runs. But the faithful followers of Ashley Giles here at Edgbaston won't mind how they come. And so 300 is up. 303 now for 6, England, and Giles has got 9, but that was a little bit lucky.
Quite fortuitous. He picked that gap, as you called it, between second and fourth slip absolutely perfectly. And Kevin Peterson chose then to not only give it a little glove punch but shake hands, and I'm not sure if you should do that. I think that's a bad sign.
Well, indeed. Here comes Kasparovich again, bowls. Giles on the back foot, plays that down to mid-off. And there is no run there. It's the end of the over, the 60th over of the innings. England 303 for 6. Giles, who's had all the strike just latterly, is 9. And Kevin Peterson, who's been somewhat marooned, is 44, but he will be on strike now.
Yes, he hasn't had much of the strike, and that will be suiting Australia just delightfully that Kevin Peterson isn't facing much of the bowling. It may draw him into a frustrated stroke when he does get on strike.
That's 7 balls since tea.
7 balls since tea. The mystery voice.
In 6 overs.
7 balls in 6 overs is not a very large share, especially when for most of the time he's been the only remaining specialist batsman. But anyway, it's now Jason Gillespie who's going to bowl to him from the pavilion end. Peterson's ready for him. Gillespie's there, bowled. Peterson comes forward and plays rather an ungainly looking stroke. Not quite a Soggaroo, but it wasn't far short of it. He was trying to work that away wide of mid-on, much in a way as he worked one earlier this afternoon, which was a remarkable stroke. But that he didn't time, and he was hitting really quite a long way across the line. Didn't look a good shot.
Well, it's that really strong bottom hand. I mean, he was aiming out that way towards mid-wicket somewhere, but Katich was on the fence, so he's protecting the boundary. And I don't think Kevin Peterson needs to play those sort of extravagant strokes. He's got to have some faith in Giles.
Exactly. 45 he's got. It's 304 for 6. And here is Gillespie into Giles. Giles goes back and forces that away behind square. Clark dives, takes some of the pace off the ball, and he's being chased away there almost to the boundary. And Langer the chaser, and they get a couple of runs. So Giles goes to 11 now. He's made rather an impressive riposte to his critics. 306 for 6. And 45, of course, to Peterson. All cricketers at this level are going to be criticised at times, and I think they've just got to swallow, really. If you fight back, you'll put yourself in a rather dangerous position. And here's Gillespie in, bowls now to Giles, who plays that very well, very sensibly, just defending, pushing it down to mid-off, and that is no run.
Well, the way you fight back is by your deeds, not by your words. You just got to do the job in the middle. You're only judged on how you bat, how you bowl, how you feel. That's the only judgment people have in cricketers. It's not what you've got to say in newspaper columns or to the press in general. It's what you do on the field. So,
well, if you say it, you merely mean they're going to jump on your back even harder next time, doesn't it, really? I mean, it must only be kind of productive to come back at them. Gillespie bowls, Giles ducks. Well played. And it wasn't all that far up. It was quite short. But he ducked underneath it, and through it went there to wicketkeeper Gilchrist. Lee is doing some loosening up exercises on the ground here at mid-on, which means, I suppose, that we'll see him in action again soon. Lee, only 11 overs today, 1 maiden, none for 72. It hasn't really been his day. And he was on the Hendersons' fairly severe treatment from Peterson and Flintoff when they were together. Gillespie now in his 19th over, 2 for 67 in his first 18. He turns now, the roar of the crowd behind him, and in he comes, up to the wicket now, bowls, and Giles goes back and forces that through the covers for 4. That was a fine stroke. No class performer on either side could have played a much better shot than that. To that particular ball, it was short of a length, but not that much short. He went back and hit it beautifully, wide of mid-off, and he's gone to 15. It's 310 for 6. He's beginning to bat a bit as if he's been batting 1, 2, 3 or 4 all his life.
Yes, that was a quality stroke, that. And it's also a very appropriate time I handed this note, which we'll get to after this particular delivery.
And here comes Gillespie again. Giles just plays that easily down to Lee at mid-on, and there's no run. It's the end of the over. When past notes in this box, you've always got to be a bit beware that the hand of Jonathan Agnew is not lurking behind them.
Well, I have read this one through before I repeat it. It was handed to me by Peter Baxter, who I trust implicitly,
of course,
and explicitly. The highest score in an Ashes Test match at Edgbaston by a Warwickshire player was before that shot from Ashley Giles. I'll give you 400 guesses.
11.
Well, the score was 13, but who made it? The highest score by a Warwickshire player. No, you'll have to. Dennis Amos batted 1. This guy had 2 1s next to his name in the batting order.
A number 11, really.
And it's a remarkable.
David Brown.
No, in fact, he's currently about 5 metres up the road from us in the commentary box. Bob
Willis.
Fridley, don't count. You've got all the books over there.
And here comes Kasparovich starting a new over, bowls there, no ball. And Peterson drives down to long on, and they collect the single as Lee picks up. So 310 for 6. Bill's always a bit of a spoil sport on these occasions.
It must have been one of the rare occasions he remembered to take his bat out with him.
Yes, well, we're having a really good game until the statistician has to say something. I don't know. Jeez.
Well, 15 now to Giles, 46 to Peterson. Giles in strike, and Kasparovich coming into bowl. 3 slips in the gully, they go down. Kasparovich in bowls, forward comes Giles, drives beautifully into the covers, and it's very well stopped by Clark in his wrong hand, diving to his right before transferring the ball to his left hand and throwing back in well to wicketkeeper Gilchrist. And the score remains on 312 for 6. Here, David Brown wasn't a bad guess. I mean, I think he probably always batted a bit higher than number 11. But Darrell Bob Willis, yes, he was one of nature's number 11s, wasn't he?
I assume he was playing for Warwickshire then, not for Surrey, but...
Yes. He didn't play Test cricket, I think, when he was playing for Surrey.
Just a young man. But I mean, it's a fascinating piece of trivia, isn't it? Of all the Test matches here, the local player never got more than 13.
Kasparovich in, bowls there. Ooh, and that's left alone by Giles. It wasn't far away from the off stump. But as I say, Giles is looking like a class performer today.
Of course, I mean, Dennis Amos probably played here, I would suspect, and I'm sure Bill will let me know before I finish the sentence, that he did play a bit against Lilly and Thompson and those sort of guys in the 70s. And obviously, this is just Ashes series, not any Test match, before we get 4,000 other emails, just Ashes Test match.
I'm not surprised the gentleman whom that stand was named after, R.E.S. Wyatt, didn't get more than 11, or maybe he never played against Australia here. In comes Kasparovich, Giles on the front foot drive, drives down to mid-off, and there is no run. But cricket is fascinating how it comes up with these things continually, doesn't it? Things that you would never in a million years guess.
And had Ponting had a third slip rather than a fourth, it still may be the record. However, that's the captain's choice. He didn't, and now he's actually got the slip spread out. He just moved the gaps a little bit wider there.
And Kasparov is in, bowls Giles plays a cut, beautiful cover, drives one away for 4. Well, goodness me, that was a fine stroke. And the ball boys in the far distance running here, there and everywhere, picking it up and throwing it back. But that was a little bit over pitch. Giles leant into it, timed it beautifully, and it raced away over the turf for 4. And what an astonishing day's cricket this is. It goes on and on and on.
Right, and that was a wonderful stroke because it wasn't a half volley. It was, not quite a good length, just slightly fuller. A delightful shot.
Kasparov didn't much enjoy it. 316 for 6, Giles 19. And Kasparov in again, bowls. Giles is forward. Impeccable defence, bat and pad glued together, and there's no run. It was fielded out there on the offside. 316 for 6. The crowd in very good voice, and I dare say, well, I walked round halfway around the ground in the tea interval, and the amber liquid was going great guns here, there and everywhere. I kept on passing gentlemen with those precariously balanced trays with pint mugs on them, full pint mugs. Kasparov in, bowls, Giles plays forward, I know that kept a bit low. He was moving across his stumps and it came down quite quickly on that one, which was fielded at mid-on. It's the end of Kasparov's over. 15 overs, 3 maidens, 3 for 80 now, so 6 runs came off the over. Giles has 19 and 46 to Peterson.
Yes, well, I too had a little walk around the ground at the lunch interval, and you're right, those drinks containers were precariously balanced. I saw 2 men lose their beers and almost break into tears.
Because they then had gone back and joined half a mile long queue.
That's one reason they broke into tears, yes. Well, I did run into 3 former Australian fast bowlers in Carl Rackerman, Merv Hughes, of course we know who's on tour, and Damien Fleming. And they all had a rather large pork roll in their hands. And when I said, there's a likely group having something to eat for lunch, and apparently both Damien and Carl were holding the pork rolls for Merv, so he was actually having 4 of them at one time.
And I played as a sort of warm-up to a contest with Mike Gatting, who I think is our champion.
I think Gat was in the queue to get another pork rolls.
Anyway, it's Brett Lee, as anticipated. He's come on in place of Jason Gillespie at the pavilion end. He's playing 1 or 2 warm-up balls to Gillespie, who's fielding at a deepish mid-on. And Lee's bowling with 1 slip, a third man, very fine, a gully, deep gully, extra cover mid-off, mid-on, deep square leg and deep fine leg. And here comes Lee, kicking up his heels behind him as he goes. He's there, short, and Peterson comes to a lot of bottom hand in that, doesn't time it, drives it between the backer-upper, Giles, and the stumps. It's fielded by Gillespie. If they'd wanted the single, they could have got it, but the field is far-flung. Ponting is very happy to give Peterson the single at this stage of the over and try and get the lesser batsman, Giles, out. Lee turns, fair-haired, strong, quite broad across the beam. In he comes now up to the wicket, bowls that Peterson short. Peterson cracks that, but I think he rather hoped when he saw that he was going to get profit from it. But he didn't really time it, and it went Ponting there, extra cover fielded, and there was no run.
Well, there's nothing terribly subtle about Kevin Peterson's batting, is there? It's power and its strength, and we so often we've seen that bottom hand come through, that really powerful right shoulder of his. It's not about finesse and necessarily placement, although he does have that as well. It's almost solely raw power.
And here comes Lee up to the wicket now. Bowles Peterson is short, and he pulls that one away wide of mid-on for 4. Just for a moment Gillespie thought he might get to that. He placed it beautifully. It's his 50. He waves to acknowledge the cheers of the crowd, particularly from the England dressing room, and he goes to 50, and it's 320 for 6. It's his 3rd successive 50 in 3 Test innings. I wonder when the last newcomer to Test cricket hit 50 in his first 3 innings.
You're going to have to go on wondering for a little while. 65 balls, 7 fours, and he's batted for 2 hours and 13 minutes.
Well, I can give you the answer to it. It was Strauss. Here comes Lee in outside the off-stump, and a terrific firm-footed drive there by Peterson, straight to Ponting at extra cover, and there's no run.
I mean, quite typically he brought up the half century with that strong bottom hand shot. I mean, it's really good length, very short of a length, fractionally off stump and outside, and he's so strong, tall, that he whips it wide and mid-on. It's an outrageous shot, really. It's almost a cross-court forehand.
But he isn't for all that. I mean, whatever you say, he's not a mad slogger. I mean, he's shown, I think,
not
in
at
his innings, he does know how to bat, how to play an innings. Here comes Lee again. He drives massively before. That was an astonishing stroke, hitting through the line. It was nowhere near a half volley. He's absolutely smashed it away to Ponting's left. And there was no way that Clark could get anywhere near that out deep on the cover boundary. It fairly, I think it left almost a brown burn mark as it scorched over the grass. 324 for 6, 54 to Peterson. I say, what a gripping day it's been, hasn't it? I mean, there hasn't been a dull moment. And I wonder when we'll get another day like this. Not for Yonks, I should think. Here comes Lee in, bowls it short. Peterson cracks that away again behind square, and that also is gone for 4. Clark couldn't get to that. He picked the gap beautifully, and he fairly sizzled across the grass again. And so he goes now to 58. It's 328 for 6. And those were 2 splendid strokes.
2 splendid shots, 2 fairly ordinary deliveries, but 2 wonderful shots. And if Peterson keeps the strike and doesn't keep giving a one to Ashley Giles, we might see him get the 100 sooner rather than later. Boxell, he's just champing at the bit to get in here. I don't blame him. I'm worn out.
Well, it's that sort of cricket, isn't it? Lee, who hasn't played much Test cricket, his figures today suggest why. 12 overs, 1 maiden, none for 84. And it's now Warney who's coming on again at the City end. Mike Selvey in less of a muck sweat than Henry Lawson.
Oh, Henry's gone for a lie down in a dark room, I think.
But you must admit, it just goes on and on.
Well, you were saying when are we going to get another day like this? And the answer's probably tomorrow, Henry. The way it's going, it's incredible stuff, isn't it? Those are 3 phenomenal strokes, you know.
Will you just go on talking about them? I'll hand over to Jim Maxwell.
Yeah, the first one, as Henry said, the top spin cross-court forehand, extraordinary stroke, perfectly respectable delivery. Didn't deserve that, but got it. And then a absolutely lacerating cover drive, and then a square cut. It's very little margin for error when somebody can play that variety of strokes to respectable deliveries.
I was just looking up to see when England, if ever, had scored 400 on the first day of a test. I don't think they've ever done it, and if they keep this up, there'll be 420. There's still 27 overs to come. Warne's back into the attack. Mind you, they could be bowled out, I suppose. That's 6 for 328, but this has been an exhilarating day of Test match cricket. England sent in to bat. Warne bowls. And forward comes Giles, just pushing down the line there, taken on the pad, a half shout from Warne. It was a gentle inquiry. It wasn't a strident demand for LBW. Trescothick made 90, Strauss 48, Vaughan 24, Bell 6, and at that point they were 4 for 187. And then, what excitement, Flintoff making 68, hitting 6s and 4s, but he was out in the first over after tea. And Jones only made 1. Warne bowls, and he's sweeping. He's hit on the pad, and appeal for LBW. A very exultant appeal this time, not out. They've taken 1. They're coming back for 2 leg byes, indicated now by Billy Bowden. Well, Warne was going through the sky in his appeal there to Billy Bowden. And I would have thought that Giles was right in front of the line, but what was the ball going to do? All those things going through the umpire's mind. We get a chance to see a replay here. Ooh, that's close, isn't it? It's hit the back leg.
I'll tell you what, that's it drifted in the air. It looked like it was going down. It turned behind his leg, hit him on the back leg. Unless that clips his front pad.
Look, perilously close. Warne bowls again. Giles gets a quicker ball. He's hit on the pad. How was that? Not out again. He's denied once more. They go for a single. Giles rather belatedly as the ball squirted down past slip. And Warne's frizzy hair's getting frizzier at the moment. He's really frustrated.
He's going to rub it away, isn't he?
Well, he can always get a retread, of course, these days.
Well, that's also true.
Now we're getting another replay here. Giles getting a ball maybe just outside the line. Oh dear!
I reckon Ashley didn't run for that because he was waiting for the dreaded finger at the other end. I think he's been a bit lucky here, hasn't he?
Both of them could have been given. Neither were. And Bowden's going over to talk to Shane Warne, who may have muttered something about the LBW law in the background. Ricky Ponting there talking with Warne. And Billy's got the gun in the holster at the moment. There's a bit of feeling out there.
I should think so too. I think he's a bit hard done by Shane Warne there. He's already, I'm sure, he's in the match referee's book for a little bit of dissent earlier on. But it's very hard not to show some dissent when, as they call it, or disappointment as they prefer to call it, when that sort of thing happens to you.
Well, he could have given either of them out. He gave neither. 6 for 331. Peterson's facing. Warne's bowling, and he sweeps at this, and he hits it well for 4. Another 4. Peterson 62. And it's 6 for 335. He's hitting boundaries again. Got into the groove in the last over. That was a full toss. And he's banged it out to the backward square line. Warne once more from the city end bowls, and Peterson swings into it and drives it, miscues, drags it, and it's Kadich from mid-wicket towards mid-on who picks up. Peterson's not holding back here. 3 men on the boundary on the onside and 2 on the offside. Well, he may as well pick the ball because Giles is doing well. He's made 19. But a bit lucky to survive this over as a swat goes from Peterson away on the offside to the left of Ponting, and they get a single. So he'll keep the strike. So Warne unhappy at the end of that over. And Billy Bowden, I think, explaining to him why he did not give those decisions LBW. And Billy's still going on about it. 6 for 336. Peterson 63. Giles 19. And Warne 18 overs, 1 maiden, 1 for 94.
I'd really like to hear his explanation. He's going to have another tuppence worth with him too now. I'll bring you the book down and show you, says Warney. It's in there, LBW. If it's going on to hit the stumps, pitches in line, hits him on the pad, that's out.
Well, the first one's hit the back pad.
Yeah.
And the next one was drifting a little near leg. Maybe he thought it was going.
The back pad one was the one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Unless it flicked the front pad, but even if it flicked the front pad, it had straightened.
Yes, well, it's Lee who's going to bowl again, and they're doing some deployment of the field here. It's very hard to stop boundaries. And how many have there been today, Bill, apart from those that have disappeared over the boundary?
48.
And 7 sixes, is it?
7 sixes.
7 sixes, 48 boundaries. So that's 242. 284 of the 336 runs scored have come in boundaries. Cop that. Now Lee is running up to Peterson. Peterson is driving, and he'll take the single because there's a man at long on. That's Gillespie. And Peterson, 64, not out. His 3rd half century in a row. And now it's Giles who's down there. Giles has played well. He's survived that over from Warne, and there was one snick that somehow went between 2nd and 4th slip off Kasparovich for 4. But he's playing the all-rounder out there at the moment. Well, the batting all-rounder at any rate. And there may well be something for him in this pitch if England get to bowl on the last day. But at the moment they're making some serious hay. Whether the sun's shining or not, it doesn't matter. This is an extraordinary day of batting. Now an interesting deployment of the field. Fine leg, a backward square, a man in front of square as Lee goes in to bowl, and Giles gets a bouncer down the leg side, which causes Gilchrist to change direction because it moved after it had passed the batsman. So the bodyline attack at Giles here with that onside fields placement. He's going to get a couple of them, and Lee probably feels a little less inhibited about the short ball than when Flintoff was out there taking them off his eyebrows over the square leg line for 6s. couple of extraordinary strokes that he played in his innings of 68. Lee goes in, that's short, and he swings into it, and he hits it pretty well. He skied it over square, away towards the boundary, and it's going to run out to the line. It's just cut off by Kasparovic. A dive and a save, and Katic out there following through. Took the ball as they went for 3. Well, that's the counter-attack. Giles ducked the previous ball, and that delivery, he was ready for it. He didn't hit it sweetly, but there was no one back at deep square, and he picked up 3.
Yeah, I'm not sure I like that very much. I'm not sure that's Ashley's job at the moment to do that. There's got a fellow going great guns at the other end, and he's very stickable, Ashley. He's very good at that, an adhesive batsman. You know, he knows what his job should be. I don't think he needs to get embroiled in the shenanigans.
We're just waiting for a replay here. Did Kasparovic clear the ball away before hitting the rope? It looked like he did. It was a very good effort. Diving, tumbling, scooping the ball back. Just one slip for Peterson as Lee runs in to bowl to him from the pavilion end, and he's driving hard down towards Gillespie at long on. Again, he's played some of those bottom hand strokes tremendously here. 2 of them wide of mid-on. Played with very fast hands and enormous power. He's 64, 6 for 341. And now for Giles. Katic going out to deep square.
Going to bounce him again.
That's a mark of respect, isn't it?
Certainly is. You know, Peterson, I don't, you know, we talk about some players are top-handed players and other players are bottom-handed players, but I don't ever recall seeing a player who is quite so obviously bottom-handed punchy as Kevin Peterson.
Lee bowls, Giles gets the short ball and he flicks it around the corner and gets a run down to Kasparovic behind square. So, not sure about the tactics from Lee here. Might be better just bowling normally, but he's trying to work over Giles with some shorter stuff. Giles has got the strike again to Warne, so he's 23, 6 for 342. Peterson on 65, and Lee has been very expensive today. 13 overs, 1 maiden, none for 90.
It's a little bit ominous, actually, Brett Lee, as far as England faster bowlers are concerned. So Stephen Harmison and Freddie Flintoff, indeed. You'd like to think that the pitch it up and swing it bowlers, the ones who Simon Jones or Matthew Hoggard would be the ones who would flourish with. But if it doesn't swing, you can see some similarly destructive batting from Australia, you know.
Yes, you just wonder at what point this pitch may start to change. It's obviously not going to occur today or tomorrow, but down the track, will there be variable bounce? Now, Giles sweeps, hit on the pad and appeal for LBW, out! This time, 3rd time lucky for Warne. He's had a few big shouts. I'll be interested to see that one. That may not have been as close as the others, but he went to wallop him away on the sweep shot, missed it, and this time the appeal was answered in the affirmative as the crooked finger of Billy Bowden went up. 7 for 342, and Giles, after a good contribution, is leg before to Warne for 23.
Well, that's hitting full bug on the toe, and not enough. The umpires have to assume that the ball is going to go straight on, so it doesn't make the decision quite easy. But of the 3, that was the least obvious one to give out, wasn't it? Because you don't know what the ball was going to do. The others, we saw what it did, pitched and straightened and would have hit.
Do you think Giles should have been playing a little straighter? Well, given that he's helping the other man out.
I guess it's premeditated as much as he's gone to. It looked like he was going to go to sweep, didn't it?
Well, Warne's a chance of finishing with 5 now. He's got Hoggard, Harmison and Jones to come. Hoggard's coming in. And as fast as England have scored, and the fact that, of course, they have been sent into bat, if they get bowled out for, well, I would have thought anything less than 400 here, Australia might be quite happy with the outcome.
Yeah, I was just wondering what Ricky Ponting would have deemed an acceptable total. He wouldn't have expected the kind of rate of scoring quite obviously, but I wonder whether he would have settled for this position. 3-4-2 for 7. You know, it looks it's looking a very good pitch to bat on, and he'll think, well, you know, we can get 500-600 on here. You know, I'm sure he's thinking England have chucked away a position, that's for sure.
Well, they were 1 for 164, and then they were 4 for 290, and they're now 7 for 342, a partnership of 49 for that wicket. And Hoggard is pretty good at stabbing at the ball and keeping them out. Might be able to survive, but they're surrounding him.
His last 4 test scores have been 0, 1 and then a pair at Lord's.
Well, he's due to make a few then. Perhaps. Well, Warne's got him in his sights. Slip under the nose on the off and the onside. A leg slip. He bowls to him and Hoggard comes forward and shuffles the ball away towards point where Gillespie's fielding. So this may require a bit more manipulation of the strike and attacking batting from Peterson to continue to launch England's total. And there's no doubt that that ball hit Giles in line, but gee, it looked like it was going to miss after that. Forward goes Hoggard, plays well on the offside, but that's the law. It hit him on the full.
That, you know, I can, having seen it again, I can understand why Ashley Giles played the shot. Ashley Giles saw that ball as a delivery pitching outside off stump. He got outside the line to it. He thought he had, and the ball was just going to sweep from outside the line, and it dipped in on him.
As they do from Warren. He bowls to Hoggard. He's pushing forward. He's beaten. Perhaps he played inside the line. It was a good leg break going past the edge of the bat. So there's an amazing day of Test cricket. And looking at the replay, didn't hit him on the full.
Quite on the full, was it?
No. Well, that was less out than the others. Warren bowls. Forward he comes. He's beaten outside the off stump, just pushing down the line. Yes. The more you look at it, the more you'd be thinking, surely that can't be given out. And it was.
I wonder how much Billy thought, I can't turn another one down.
3 strikes and you're out.
Too short.
You've missed for the third time. Off you go. Hoggard forward, gets a quicker straighter one, keeps it out of his pads. A good over from Warren. Wicket maiden. There haven't been many of those today. 19 overs, 2 maidens, 2 for 94. He's up to 591 Test wickets, 7 for 342. Peterson 65, and Hoggard yet to score.
Now, what that wicket might well have done is make it more likely that they can take Kevin Peterson's wicket now, because he's thinking, oh, I've got ragtag and bobtail now here, haven't I? I'm going to have to crack on a little bit more if indeed he's capable of cracking on more than he's already cracking on. But you know, he'll perhaps think, I've got to take a few more chances, and in doing so, of course, the chances of him getting out will be increased. I don't think he'll take the Steve Waugh view anyway. The confidence in the tail end view. You know, you're out here to bat, you bat for me, and I'll just keep playing.
Well, the outfield's so fast, he'd still fancy his chances of getting a boundary despite all the men back. Lee runs into bowl to him, and he's swatting this ball away hard to deep mid-wicket for 4. A good stroke. He got underneath that. It's gone for 6. The 8th 6 of the day. That's how well it was hit. He put 1 foot forward, saw it was a bit short, got under it, and I don't know what the bats are they used today, but it went careering over the boundary at deep mid-wicket effortlessly.
I'm going to get a driver made out of one of these willows, I think. A willow driver, you know. We'll be unstoppable, you know, in the links, wouldn't we, one of those?
It's extraordinary batting. 8 6s today. Lee tries again. Peterson takes it off his pads. A good stroke, beautifully stopped out there at mid-wicket by Ponting. And Peterson probably didn't mind that, because had it gone past Ponting to Kadich, he wouldn't have taken a single. He's 71, 7 for 348. And now the game within the game. How can he manoeuvre the strike, keep the board rolling, and maybe in the process get his first Test 100? Warren's come out of the slips, so there's no slip. And there's a in-outfield, mainly out, as Lee travels in from the pavilion end. He bowls to Peterson, who swings this away, and he could be caught by Kadich. He's taken the catch in the deep, he's out. Kadich has taken a very good catch running in, and alas for Peterson, he didn't quite get the ball where he wanted, and he's picked out the fieldsman at deep mid-wicket. Lee celebrates with a wicket, and Peterson's good hand comes to an end. Out for 71, and it's 8 for 348 as Peterson gets the applause from a full house at Edgbaston. Just seemed to get a bit carried away with it all there. But a fine hand. Out for 71.
Well, I hate to say called it, but it's what happens, isn't it, when you get somebody on a roll like that who clearly hasn't got any real faith in the batting down the order to hang around, especially against Shane Warne. So decides that he's going to have to go for broke if A, they're going to get more runs, and B, he's going to get 100. I wouldn't like to say which was uppermost in his mind either. So it's a difficult one to call that, isn't it? You want both, of course. One leads to the other, but I'm not sure that was the cleverest piece of cricket,
Have England batted as manically as they bowled on the first day at Lord's? It's similar.
They're looking for a riposte, aren't they? They're looking for a riposte to what happened at Lord's. We're going to get back in. We're going to get stuck into the Aussies. We're not afraid of them. We'll take them on. And they've gone with that mentality, which is fine. What they've done, excellent start, brilliant start. Strauss and Trescothick, some great timing. But somewhere along the line, Australia have plugged away, and they've got their rewards for doing just that. I'd put Australia in front now. The way the pitch is played.
Pitch is played superbly, and if England had won the toss and batted, you'd say they'd thrown away a wonderful opportunity.
Absolutely. And I'm sure, certainly after the first session, Ricky Ponting would have settled for this. And if England can bowl Australia out for fewer than 350, I'll be very surprised.
Well, since tea, they've lost 4 for 59.
Yeah.
So that dismissal in the first over after tea was certainly crucial, with Flintoff out for 68. Jones 1, Giles 23, and now Peterson 71. So Lee runs into Hogarth. The batsman had crossed, and he keeps the ball out of his stumps with a little push to the onside. And Peterson's innings there, 71. He faced just 77 balls, 10 fours and 1 6. Flintoff hit 5 sixes, Trescothic 2. And the run rate is still over 5 and over. And, a chance now that Australia will be facing 15 or 20 overs before the end of the day. What excitement. Lee bowls now. Back goes Hogarth. He plays and misses. He flayed at that ball outside the off stump. And it went through to keeper Gilchrist, who's had a tidy day behind the stumps. He's taken 4 catches. Australia have put 1 down when Strauss was 4. Warne couldn't hold on to 1 at slip going to his left. There was another from a no ball bowled by Kasparovich to Trescothick that Hayden took, but he was then on 32. And maybe a caught and bowled to Kasparovich, low to his right hand when Peterson was 41. They've taken a couple of good ones. Lee bowls again. Forward goes Hogarth, pushes down behind point, and he races off for a run, so he's off the mark. And that was a no ball. There have been a few of those today. 350 comes up for England. 8 for 350. Strauss was bowled Warne for 48. Trescothick caught Gilchrist, bowled Kasparovich 90. Bell caught Gilchrist, bowled Kasparovich 6. Vaughan top edging a hook, caught Gilchrist. Caught Lee, bowled Gillespie for 24. It was then 4 for 187. So Lee has Harmison there. He runs in to bowl to him, and he's forward, defending well. Up the offside to complete the over. And a wicket to Lee in that over at last after an expensive day. 8 for 350. Hogarth's 1. Harmison yet to score. And joining Mike Selvey, it'll be Jonathan Agnew.
Well, I guess it'll quieten down now. The big hitter's gone. Stephen Harmison can throw the bats a little bit. Sometimes we see a bit of fun from him. A few comic cuts, but Matthew Hogarth, very definitely a blocker from the old school. Currently not a very good one, actually.
No, he isn't, but I think you're right. I think we may see probably the quietest passage of play of the day coming up now. Every chance. There are 4 men around the bat. Hogarth looks around studiously. Here's a blocker, virtually entirely shotless. And Warne will be trying to tease him out, probably by him prodding forward and offering a catch to one of those men just in front of him there on either side. Hoggard crouches over his bat. Warne comes in and bowls. Timmy goes for, well, a sort of a sweep, and Gilchrist whips the bails off and appeals there to the umpire for a stumping, but nothing is done. There's no call for a third umpire or anything like that. That was an unusual stroke from Hoggard. I mean, in that it was a shot, actually, wasn't it?
I suppose so. It was sort of a flap. It would have been one of those paddles for one, wouldn't it? I don't think it would have been a boundary, even on this outfield. It's pretty quick.
350 for 8. Hoggard has one. Here comes Warne again. He bowls, and that's down the leg side, all taken by Gilchrist, who again takes the bails off. Hoggard, though, again firmly stands in his ground. And there was no appeal this time either from Gilchrist, who puts the bails back on, saving Rudy Kurtzen the 25-yard jog in from square leg. And Warne comes up again, bowls over the wicket, and Hoggard keeps his bat just inside that as he gropes forward. And there's no run. 350 for 8 with 22 overs to go after this, so I think we're looking at that 6 o'clock cut-off time again, or more or less that.
Well, we're going to be well into the Australian innings, aren't we?
Who'd have thought so. That's the most likely scenario. Here's Warne, and Hoggard clips that away through mid-wicket. Not a bad shot, that. He's poked a couple. It may even go for 4. I don't think it will. The fielder's going to get there. Just pulling it back inside the line now. It's Clark who's so fast. So coming back for the third. Harmison has to get a bit of a move on. He does. And, well, you know, that Hoggard playing a shot like that suggests that England's positive approach is going to continue, because if ever there was a blocker, it's Hoggard. And that was definitely a positive stroke.
It was. The day I hit Shane Warne against the spin
for 3.
For 3 through mid-wicket.
Indeed.
Yes.
He goes to 4. Harmison has yet to score. He can hit the ball a long way, and on a day in which all these 6s have been hit, and we have had 8, haven't we? I think Harmison would fancy hitting 1 at least. There's an extra man out. He's out of the close catching area for him. There are 3 men around the bat. Peterson, a very tall man at Harmison, a very tall man, crouches over his bat with a slightly open stance. And that's a little sweep from Harmison down a fine leg. It's gone out of our view, but we're going to see, I'm sure, on the monitor here we do. Lee comes sweeping around the boundary and throw the ball back in. And, well, that was delicate. 355 for 8. And if Martin Johnson, who's playing cricket tomorrow, as we were hearing in the tea break, needs to borrow anybody's kit, I suppose Harmison's probably would come closest of anybody's, but
might be a little bit narrow in the waistband.
Well, indeed, only really in terms of height. Warne comes in and bowls, and that's swept away again by Harmison. Just beating Catch's outstretched hand there at square leg. They take 1 run. 355 for 8. 356 for 8. Thank you. Enormous cheer breaks out. I'm slightly bemused as to why. Has Shane Warne gone for 100? He has, that was it. I got there in the end. Shane Warne has conceded 100 runs exactly, and he's getting one of the biggest cheers of the day. 20 overs, 2 maidens, 2 for 100.
Well, he might have the last laugh if he comes over 5 for 100, but we can't get 5, can you? 4 for 100 though.
He's doffing his hat, to be fair. And he's smiling. He's got a good sense of humour, this fellow. But I think he was as confused as everyone else. It broke out spontaneously around the ground, as if everyone had decided, all 16, 17,000 here, that he was going to get a round of applause. It must have been on the scoreboard that we can't see around to our left here, that keeps a constant update on the runs conceded by each bowler.
Well, it's certainly gone after him, haven't they?
Yes.
So they've worked out a way. They decided, through Harmison, you can get £4.50 an hour for sweeping like that, can't you?
Well, I've never seen Warne swept so much.
They've clearly decided that's how they're going to play him.
Yeah. Now we have Brett Lee continuing to Harmison with a backward short leg, 3 slips and a gully. So plenty of attacking men there. As Lee strides out, he bowls to Harmison. It's short, he pulls it. There's no power at all. The ball dribbles out to that man there at leg gully, if you like, if you're an Australian. Backward short leg if you're an Englishman. And it's Catich there who fields and throws the ball back. 356 for 8. Harmison Again, repeats the shot. It looked rather better second time around when the ball wasn't coming down. And in his mind, at least, the ball was then sailing over deep mid-wicket for 6. But it was all a bit different. All a little bit flustered.
He tried with his eyes shut. It seems to work, doesn't it?
Ala Flintoff. In goes Lee, rushing up. He bowls a bouncer. He's pulled that away. Down towards long leg as a chance. It's 6. There's his 6. He wanted one. And he's got it as well. A top-edged hook off Brett Lee. And Steve Harmison joins the 6 club. The 9th. In an extraordinary, almost ridiculous day. Brett Lee's shaking his head. There is a certain ignominy, I think, to being hooked for 6 by Steve Harmison, but it's happened to him. For a while it looked as if maybe Kastrovic could take the catch. It's the 5th 6 hit from Brett Lee today. That in itself is extraordinary. And that's his 100 too, isn't it, Bill? Yep, he's gone for one as well. 362 for 8. In goes Lee, racing in. He bowls to Harmison. Short, he's pulled him for 4. Through mid-on, no less. You don't do that to a fast bowler unless A, you knew it was coming, and B, the pitch is slow, and C, likely in this scenario, a combination of both.
Well, he's up the high. He'd been like for the Walter Lawrence Trophy, wasn't he, for the fastest 100 of the season, Brett Lee?
It really has been an extraordinary day. If you're just joining us, I mean, it began in bizarre fashion with one of the leading bowlers in the world being escorted off in a motorised trolley because he'd twisted his ankle on a ball half an hour before play began. That was Glenn McGrath, who's taking no part in this match as a chance. He won't take any part in the series. Any further part, that is. The sad way for his tour to end, but they're waiting anxiously, the Australians, for further medical reports. England were then put into bat, which again raised a few eyebrows, and they've scored at, well, certainly 5 and over throughout the day. It was almost 6 and over during the afternoon. Now, I think Lee has got his dander up, and he goes and bowls on the off stump. Not a very elegant stroke there from Harmison, who swished the bat, and the ball was long gone. It was into Gilchrist's gloves, I think, by the time the bat was through. 366 for 8. Well, I sat down here 7 minutes ago and thought we'd been for a very quiet passage of play.
Yeah, we just say that, didn't we?
Hoggard's hit 3 through mid-wicket, which is itself is remarkable. And now Steve Harmison has hooked Lee for 6, albeit off the top edge, and he's flogged him through mid-on. The overall run rate today is 5.3. The first day of a test match from a team that's been put into bat. 366 for 8. In goes Lee, he bowls to Harmison. It's short, he doesn't try and pull this though, he rather cunningly goes back and really plays this away calmly to point.
Now,
where Clark's in.
What was so very different about that to the one he flogged through mid-wicket that night? That incidentally came up as allegedly 94.8 miles an hour or something, the one he pulled down here. Now if that was 94.8 miles an hour for Stephen Harmison, then I'm Prince Ranjit Singh, I think.
Yes, I think you're right. It's on a super slow again. He's got his eyes shut as he played that shot. Definitely a way to go. 366 for 8. In goes Lee, and that's down the leg side. Harmison can't do anything with it, and there's no run. All through my batting career I was accused of batting with my eyes closed, and I could have pointed to these pictures now of Flintoff and Harmison gaily slogging the Australians everywhere, so that it's the way to bat. 366 for 8. We've had 69 overs, so 21 remain to be bowled today. We may get them in, although I think it's probably unlikely for that cut-off point of 6 o'clock, and if you're clock watching in Australia or some other part of the world, that's an hour and a quarter from now. If there is any time remaining or overs remaining at that stage, the umpires will simply pull the stumps out of the ground, and those overs are gone. Now, what's Hoggard going to do here, I wonder? He's sat at the non-striker's end, watching the mayhem of that previous over. He's now got Warne to contend with. There are 3 men in catching positions, and Hoggard waits for Warne. He's got his bat raised now, and the little sweep there, and the ball comes down the leg side. He may have got bat on that, he may not have done. The ball's coming towards the boundary. Hayden's in hot pursuit, and it's gone for 4, and there's a very dainty signal of leg bye there from Billy Bowden, which means that 4 go to the total, 4 go in the leg bye column, and it's 370 for 8. And Hoggard, well, actually, I think I came off the glove looking at the replay there.
Or forearm, was it?
Glove onto arm, I think.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for the umpire with everything happening
trying to get him round his legs, I think, isn't he?
Oh, I think so. Warne again bowls, Hoggard sweeps, and they'll get one here. 371 for 8. It's the slightly remarkable thing about this is that the tail enders are also trying to sweep Warne, and I can't remember ever playing a successful sweep shot. I think I'd probably have fallen over had I tried one. And I mean, you know, Les Taylor, let's take him batting at number 11 for Leicester. If you told him to go out and sweep Shane Warne, what on earth would happen? I mean, he just wouldn't be able to do it. But they've clearly been practicing these tail enders. It's not an easy shot to play. Here's Warne. And Harmison comes down the pitch, drives him straight down the ground for 4. A blistering stroke. And he came down there as if he was taking the dog for a nice quiet Sunday morning walk.
It's Victor Trumper, that was.
375 for 8. And this quiet passage of play continues.
You couldn't write this script, could you?
Well, not sure we can keep up with this. 375 for 8. We're in the 70th over of the day. Warne comes up and he bowls to Harmison, who's deceived there and is bowled. Not quite sure what happened. The keeper was in the way. It looked a rather ugly shot from here. And Harmison's cameo has ended. Deceived by Warne, who's taken his 3rd wicket today. And Harmison is out for 17. He's bowled. It's 375 for 9. He went for the sweep, got in a tangle basically, and lost his off stump. And looked rather surprised by it.
Ignominious end. I suspect he premeditated his shot and then found that he couldn't possibly play that shot to the ball that came down. Ended up nowhere. When, as Kenny Barrington used to say, in two man's land.
So Simon Jones comes out to bat. His first scoring shot in Test cricket was a 6. And, well, he may well fancy his chances here again today as well. The bowling figures are amazing. Lee, 15 overs, 1 maiden, 1 for 108. He has been hit for 14 fours and 5 sixes. Gillespie, 19 overs, 3 maidens, 2 for 74. He's been hit for 13 fours. Kasparowicz, 15 overs, 3 maidens, 3 for 80, 13 fours. Shane Warne, 20 overs, 2 maidens, 2 for 100.
He's now taken 3 for 105. He's gone for 10 fours and 4 sixes.
Well, thank you, Bill. And still with 20 overs to go tonight. How many runs could we score today?
Harmison's 17 came off 11 balls.
That in itself is bizarre. Well, Jones, slightly open stance, waits for Warne. He's shaggy haired these days, of course. And in he comes, and he bowls to Jones, who prods forward. Catch it, Warne shouts, which Hayden does, and then nothing happens. And Jones leans on his bat as if he had that completely under control. 375 for 9. The crowd absolutely gripped. If they've booked their seats months and months ago, it was certainly worth the wait. And Warne comes striding in again past umpire Bowden, and he bowls to Jones. Oh my word, that almost bowled him as Jones came groping forward there. Not quite sure how he missed that, or indeed how it missed the stumps, but it did. The last pair have a chat, a bit of a morale boosting debate about something. It's 375 for 9. Hoggard has 5. Jones is yet to score. More from Mike Selvey, and then Henry Blofeld.
Well, I wonder what the Australian approach to batting is going to be. Whether they'll take the view that anything you can do, we can do better, and they'll score at 6.5 and over, or will they take a more pragmatic view and say, well, actually, 3.5 and over, it'll see us to 600 and a strong position in this game. I rather suspect that they'll take the view that England have blown this a little bit. That there was a big total in the making from England, and that they've rather chucked it away.
Lee coming in now to bowl to Hoggard. He's up to the wicket, he bowls. Hoggard goes back and flashes that one. He goes down to third man, and they collect just a single. Clark is the fielder down there, and so Hoggard goes on to 6. It's 376 for 9. Yes, I agree with you, Mike. There was a time today when it looked 550 or even 600 looked a possibility, and the surface is so good that it's not an unreasonable possibility. But what really let England down was that sort of slight middle order collapse, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was after lunch.
Yes. Vaughan, Trescothick, Vaughan, and Bell. And it's Lee now coming into bowl to Jones, the left-hander. He's up to the wicket. He bowls Jones. Oh, he leaves that alone with all the sort of certainty of a proper batsman. And through it went to Gilchrist, who once again has kept admirably. He's taken so far 4 catches, and as far as I've seen, he's missed nothing.
It's an exemplary performance. I thought he was pretty good at Lords as well.
And he's so good too, standing close to Shane Warne, which can't be the easiest thing to do on a cricket field, because you've got to read him pretty accurately, yet he never seems to let one go through. Here's Lee again, in, bowls to Jones, and Jones carves at that, and is going to get 1 run out there to cover. And indeed, for a moment it looks as though it might have been 4, but cover was standing fairly deep. That's Langer, and so 1 to Jones, 377 for 9. The crowd have absolutely loved this day, as you would expect. They're standing in the hospitality suites all the way around the ground, standing in the front there, looking over the railings, really almost hardly believing what they've seen. Everyone else sitting there to the end. And it's Lee in now. He bowls to Hoggard, and Hoggard, with a bit of a hop, skip and a jump, goes across his stumps and plays that down to Gillespie at mid-on, and there is no run. 377 for 9, and it may be by this time tomorrow that really doesn't look a very big score, but funny things can happen, and it'll be interesting to see what the pitch looks like after this, if there are marks in it.
I wonder how England feel about this, whether they're exhilarated by the performance and they'll go on a big high, or whether they think, actually, we might have just blown this a little bit.
Well, I think there's no doubt that they've learned some of the lessons from Lords. I mean, their approach to Warne was entirely different. They didn't let him mesmerise them as he'd done then, and they've been a great deal more positive, in amongst some unnecessary carelessness, which has cost them dear. And it's Lee into Hoggard. Hoggard goes back, forces, and that one just bubbles down there to mid-off and Martin Fields, and there is no run. But it was Strauss in a way gone out a little bit carelessly before lunch, Trescothick afterwards, Michael Vaughan definitely, Bell may have got a good one, but on another day I think he'd have reckoned to have played that quite reasonably safely. It may be that the occasion on his own home ground got to him, and it's Lee again. He's in now, burst to Hoggard, pitched up, attempt to York him. Hoggard digs it out, and Hayden comes out of the gully and fields. And then, of course, Flintoff, in fact, got himself out in the end after tea in rather a boring way, didn't he? After he'd promised so much.
Yes, it was a
soft dismissal,
an unseemly end to. Didn't go down with guns blazing, did he?
No.
But that was probably the interval as much as anything that did for him there. And the need. It doesn't matter who you are. There's always a need to regroup after an interval, or even after a drinks break. We see it happen after drinks breaks too, don't we? The dismissals immediately after, where the batsman just doesn't perhaps get back into his own little world, his own little mental zone, with the 22-yard strip down there.
Well, this is right, and it's going to be now Shane Warne again, 21 overs, 2 maidens, 3 for 105. It's been a long time since he's been treated as roughly as he has today. He's in, he bowls to Jones, who comes forward, pushes out into the offside, purely defensively, and there is no run. But, I mean, when Warne came on, Strauss was down the wicket to his 4th ball and sent it for a 2-bounce 4. A couple of 4s in his 2nd over. Then Trescothick deposited Warne straight back over his head for 6. And the lesson is self-evident. Warne was not allowed to settle. He's in again now. He bowls, and Jones is forward and is going to get a run off the edge, past the diving slip, and it's being chased down there by Lee towards the 3rd-man boundary, and he picks it up just before it goes over the rope. And they come back for 2. So Jones goes now to 3, and the total 379 for 9. Of course, Jones made 44 in his first innings in Test cricket at Lords, didn't he? And so, I mean, he's not a complete mug with the bat by any means. Warne is up to the wicket now, bowls. Jones comes forward, just plays it down in front of him. Warne sort of puts his hand up to his head and then waits for the ball to be thrown back to him by Gilchrist. He's looking rather worn as a man who really can't quite understand where it's gone wrong today. He feels he should have had greater reward, and I'm sure he'll probably have a look in the direction of Billy Bowden afterwards when he really analyses what went wrong. I think he was a bit unlucky, probably, on an occasion or two. Worn in again. Bowles gives it to him left. It's a full toss, and Jones dispatches this to the square leg boundary with no ceremony at all. It was a full toss, and he hit it away beautifully. And still fours come, even though England's last wicket pair are together. Jones goes on to 7. It's 383 for 9, but that was the worst ball that's been bowled by anyone all day.
He tried to give that one a lot of air. That was what we used to call a moon ball, that one.
Well, it was a juicy full toss, and it got its desserts. Worn in again. He's up to the wicket now. He bowls to Jones. Jones is forward, beaten. That one was probably the one that the Google, the one that turned away from the left-hander. Jones felt for it, didn't take it. Gilchrist did, but he didn't get a touch on it, so there was no appeal. Worn in again. Past umpire Bowden, he's there now, he bowls, forward comes Jones, and again he's beaten outside the off stump. Gilchrist takes the ball. 383 for 9 at the end of the over. 7 to Jones and 6 to Hoggard.
Now maybe they should set themselves a little target out now, the England batsmen. Let's see if we can get it up to 400. We're not exactly under pressure of time here, are we? Let's just, bat properly. The Hoggy's out there, look, pragmatic Matthew Hoggard saying, come on, let's do that. You can play, we know you can bat. You don't, maybe you, Simon Jones, don't quite fancy the quick stuff that much, but actually it's coming off pretty sluggishly here, isn't it?
Yes,
so
it is.
you can get in line to that. If you've got a good eye, you can play some good shots.
And somehow psychologically there's more in 400 than 389.
Absolutely, yeah.
And there's no real reason. In fact, they had a very determined conversation in the middle of the wicket, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if they weren't saying something exactly along those lines. Lee it is, in from the pavilion, bows to I don't know that they were. Hoggard had a wild and woolly woof outside the off stump of that one, and mercifully for him didn't get a touch, and then walks away to square leg, and perhaps ticking himself off with true Yorkshire vigour, I don't know. But if they were saying what you were saying, he very quickly forgot about it.
Maybe they were saying, come, let's just throw the bat at everything.
Well, then, I suppose that would be a legitimate response. But I would have thought 400 would have been quite a useful landmark to have got to. Anyway, Lee turns and runs away from us, bouncing up to the wicket. He's there now, he bowls, and Hoggard just gets into line, pushes down to mid-off, and Martin fields, and there is no run. One of the ball boys there in their white cricket gear is running around the boundary at the rate of absolute knots. He's lost his apple, left his apple in the changing room or something. And umpire Kurtzin comes forward and remarks the crease, the front crease, on which he calls the no ball. And Brett Lee, meantime, walks back quickly, which is good for a fast bowler, and is coming in now to bowl to Hoggard. He's up to the wicket now, he bowls outside the off stump. Hoggard plays no stroke, and Gilchrist takes, and Gillespie's just beginning to do a bit of arm twirling, or was then, before Brett Lee bowled that last ball, so maybe soon we will see him in action. But I think all the yellow-hatted Australian brigade on the far side of the ground and the RAS Wyatt stand, I think they will have had their moments of wondering what on earth has happened. But I think at the end of the day, they probably will go home and feel quite happy about the way things have gone. Lee is in. He's up to the wicket now. He bowls to Warren, who gets a run, a very fortuitous single. It was a Yorker. He somehow got his bat down on it, went off the inside edge, down there to fine leg, and they collected a single. So 7 all now to Jones and Hoggard, and the total 384 for 9.
Played the draw there, didn't he? That almost came to the face of the bat.
Between us, indeed.
Between himself and leg stump.
I've never been quite able to understand how they played that stroke.
No, nor me.
They played it between...
Or why.
Or why, indeed. They played it between their legs, didn't they?
Yeah.
And it's most extraordinary. You see it in the very, very old cricket books. And it required great skill. And Silver Billy Beldam would have done it for a pastime. Here comes Lee round the wicket now. Jones drives, doesn't get a touch. Gilchrist takes, and Lee gives Jones just a little bit of a look. and it wouldn't surprise me if Jones soon doesn't get a bouncer. He's produced 1 or 2 at the Australians, and there was a little bit of bouncing at the tail enders going on at Lord's. Another member of the 2 more of the ball boys sprinting around the boundary at the far end, retaking their positions. So maybe it's a sort of changeover time, I don't know. And here is Lee round the wicket into the left-handed Jones, who looked as if he was going to come forward without any footwork at all. In the end, didn't. It is the end of the over. 384 for 9 is the score. 7 each to Simon Jones and Matthew Hoggard. And still England fight on.
Just a little bit of reverse swing for Brett Lee in that over, you know. The one that saying the draw down to fine leg, a little bit there, and then round the wicket Simon Jones, just shaping one ever so gently away from him. I think he probably could have done with a little bit of reverse swing about 50 overs earlier, though.
Well, it's Lee's figures now. 17 overs, 1 maiden, 1 for 111. I think that's one of the Nelson points that wouldn't have had David Shepherd hopping about. So I don't think there's any way he'd have known that he was 1 for 111.
I think he's pegged it back as well, hasn't he, the past couple of overs?
Well, he has, indeed.
It was what, 14 overs, 100 came his 15th.
Last 3 overs have given away 3 runs. Warne in, bowls that to Hoggard, pitches it up. Hoggard plays it away very nicely off his pads there to mid-wicket, and it's picked up by Langer, and there is no run. Still the blue dirigible with the white tail, fans, looks down on us from the other end, carrying a television camera, automatic camera in its webbing, and Warne bowls. Hoggard, I think probably watch that one turn off the pitch and let it go through to Gilchrist. He looked a little bit like a startled rabbit, but I'm not absolutely certain that he played at it. Anyway, Warne is coming in again with the RAS Wyatt stand at his back. He's up to the wicket now. He bowls to Hoggard. Hoggard pushes forward, kills the spin, and it picked up there at Silly Point by Katic, and there is no run. Mike Selvey departs, and Henry Lawson returns. The combination of the duet of Henrys. We've been together rather a lot today. It's been
And quite rightly too.
Absolutely. Star billing. Here comes Warne in bowls. Forward comes Hoggard, runs this down to backward point. Gillespie is there. There's no run. Pigeon comes hovering very low over our heads. Took a quick look at Henry and thought, goodness, there's an Australian in the box, and so went on.
It was an English pigeon.
Probably. I don't think they would make quite that journey. And here is Warne in bowls. Hoggard tries to play this way on the leg side, beautifully taken down the leg side by Gilchrist, who whips off the bails as he always does. It's a matter of course when he takes ball, but doesn't he keep well to Warne?
And we haven't given him much of a mention today. He's been
brilliant, hasn't he?
Exceptional. Is it 4 catches so far?
4.
And very tidy off form, particularly down the leg side.
He's never made a mistake. Here is Warne again, in bowls to Hoggard, and that was an attempt to york him, the quicker one, but Hoggard, great sense, got down on it and played it back down the pitch to Warne, the end of the over, a maiden over. Warne now 23 overs, 3 maidens, 3 for 111, and Lee has got 1 for 111, so Nelson's all over the place. It's 384 for 9, 7 each to Jones, Simon Jones that is, and Hoggard.
And you almost wonder why you'd bother playing out a maiden at this stage of the game. Pit out or get out and have some overs at Australia. I mean, there's still 16 to go, and take up a couple for a change of innings perhaps, so there'll be some good opening spells by the English bowlers in all likelihood, but not too sure why you'd bother blocking Warne back at this stage for the last wicket. Have a belt, take whatever you get, and if you don't, it doesn't matter, because you get a good little burst with that new ball.
Well, you get 2 bites of the cherry that way, don't you? So you get it's newish than tomorrow morning. But Mike Selvey was saying a few moments ago that perhaps quite an important psychological barrier to pass is 400.
Oh, well, that'd be nice. But will you more likely get there prodding around a bit, or having a good whack at it?
Well, I would think from the tail enders, probably, if they're going to have a bit of a whack, it'd better be at the quicker bowlers rather than Warne. I think he may have too much up his sleeve for them. Here's Gillespie now, coming in from the pavilion end, bowls down to Jones. Jones drives into the covers, and it's fielded there by Langer, deep at cover, or deepish, and they get 1 run. So 8 now to Jones. It's 385 for 9. And if 400 is indeed their target, they are now 15 runs away from it. But what a day it's been. A tremendous start by England, a bit of a collapse after lunch. Then we had Flintoff and Peterson, and then another collapse after tea. But even then, there's been a little bit to come. I mean, even Harmison made 17, Giles made 23, and they all played some splendid strokes. Gillespie is in now, he bowls, and that's a nudged, I can always say, by Hoggart, quite safely into the ground. No ball called there by umpire Kurtzin, and nudged to second slip, and Ponting to his left goes down on his knee and fields. Trescothick 90, Strauss 48, Vaughan 24, Bell 6, Peterson 71, Flintoff 68, Jones 1, that's Go Jones, the wicketkeeper, Giles 23, and Harmison 17. And Gillespie quite slowly back to his mark. He's there now, and in he comes. He's up to the wicket now. He bows to Hoggart, goes back, forces. Gillespie himself fields. And I must say, Henry, one thing that's come out of today is that if Flintoff and Peterson are going to continue to have lengthy partnerships for England, the English authorities are going to have to consider building bigger grounds, because they're going to be very, very exciting to watch.
They're not really into hitting it in the gaps and running hard, are they? The only gaps they hit it into are the ones between the stands.
That's quite right. Yes, all over the stands on the other side of them. There was some marvellous hitting today. Gillespie in now, bows to Hoggart. Hoggart nurdles this one away. The bat a little bit away from the body, down into the gully. Hayden fields, and there is no run. But the spirit, I think, of the England batsmen has been much better today than it was at Lord's, where they were a bit like frightened rabbits in the headlights of a car, weren't they? I mean, they'd done their best not to let any of the Australian bowlers settle, particularly Warne. I thought their approach to Warne was very much more sensible.
Well, they went after him the very first over he bowled. There's some shots back over his head, and that signalled their intentions for the day.
And here comes Gillespie again in bowls, and Hoggart goes back, and somehow he was aiming on the offside, got it away off the inner half of the bat, out towards square leg, but there was no run. And so 386 for 9. A little bit of blue sky in the distance, rather pale blue sky over the centre of Birmingham or thereabouts. And we've been lucky. We were promised perhaps a little bit of rain, a shower or two after tea, and so far, touch wood, nothing has emerged. And Gillespie turns. No, Hoggart now pulls away from the wicket and is swatting with his bat rather vigorously at what is maybe a fly or a wasp even. And he holds his hand up in an apology to Gillespie, who now plods his way home like a weary ploughman at the end of his day. And it'll take he takes quite a while to get back to his mark.
He looks weary from ball one, though.
Well, indeed. It's his way, isn't it?
Never looks to be in that much of a hurry, whether bowling or batting.
Well, he's back there now. Hoggart is in position, and here he comes, Gillespie. He's up to the wicket now, and Hoggart goes back and forces that straight to Clark at cover point, and there is no run. Clark returns it to Gilchrist, although Gilchrist has not come up to the stumps. And I think someone who will have enjoyed it, I'm sure, Martin Johnson, the old England rugby captain, who's sitting down just in front of us, and he's been there all day. And if he hasn't enjoyed it, he's a man who's very hard to please, because it has been an absolutely scintillating day's cricket. Although perhaps for England it's been scintillating with a small s, and not the big one they hoped for. Gillespie in now, bows to Hoggart. Hoggart on the front foot plays this out to cover, and again Clark fields. It is the end of the over. 386 for 9 is the score. 7 to Hoggart, 8 to Jones, and after another word from Henry Lawson, it will be Jim Maxwell.
Well, Martin Johnson, who we did have on air at the tea break with Jonathan Agnew, he didn't profess to be an enormous fan of the game, but he liked the game. He does play it occasionally, but he sat just down in front of our box all day, transfixed by the action. And it has been all action, 386 for 9. So a side almost bowled out, almost 400 on the board, and still it's just 75 overs bowled. And to be honest, if you can't like your test cricket played like this, you don't like the game. You may as well go and play Coits or something of that nature.
Amazing day. Well, surely, one way or another, we're going to get over 400 scored on the first day of the test. England may yet get to that mark. They're 9 for 386. Warren's trying to get the last wicket. He bowls to Jones. Jones goes forward and plays the ball gently out on the offside, just poking away. But we've got 2 days' entertainment in one here, the way England have played after being sent in. And after that drama at the start when McGrath rolled his ankle on a ball in the warm-ups and was carted off to hospital for an x-ray. We'll get a report on him at the end of the day's play. There's no bone damage, but there's ligament damage, and you'd have to believe he won't be playing at Old Trafford after that. Who knows? We'll get a report at the end of the day. Warren bowls and Jones is forward, and he plays the ball on the bump to Ponting, who's under the nose on the offside. So with
and one wonders what difference McGrath would have made today. I mean, the pitch has been very good. In fact, it's been slow and occasionally on the low side as well, but it hasn't been a great pitch to bowl seam on.
Warren bowls to Jones. Jones goes forward and turns the ball around the corner and gets a run. Pad or bat. We'll wait for Billy Bowden as the ball trickle around the corner. It's a leg by. 9 for 387. Jones 8. Hoggard's been stubborn out there. He's made 7. And the batting at the moment contrasting with the extraordinary hitting that was going on, particularly when Andrew Flintoff was out there making 68 from 62 balls, hit 5 sixes. Here's Hoggard leaning forward again, saw the leg break, just played inside the line. And I suppose it's at this stage of the day that Hayden and Langer are looking at the board and thinking, well, okay, just let them bat for a few more overs so we don't have many to face.
They'd like another 13 overs bowled for no runs, ideally, the openers.
Yes. Warren goes into Hoggard. Hoggard gets another bouncing leg break, which he ignores.
I mean, having said that, there's enough overs left that you can actually get 50 or 60.
As Michael Slater, I think, did here 4 years ago, tearing into Darren Gough. Remember that in the opening day after England were bowled out?
It was 18 off the first over after England had put on 100 for the last wicket. Alex Stewart and
Caddick. Warren in, Hoggard forward to a quicker ball. It was right up there and he knocked it out on the offside. So Warren bowls a maiden. He's come back from 17 overs, 1 for 89 to 23 overs, 4 maidens, 3 for 111. And that was the 76th over of the innings, and the scoring rate still a touch over 5 and over for the day. They made 132 in the first session and 157 between lunch and tea.
When at lunch, they were going on about 340 pace, which is pretty good. By tea, they were going at 440 pace. It's just tremendous stuff. I mean, it's just been an enormous day's test cricket. It's great to see the grounds full. And why wouldn't they be when you see cricket like this? Yes, it's a traditional clash. It's the great, what Australia and England think is the great clash in cricket, but it's just wonderful for anybody to watch.
It's Gillespie bowling, and Jones is beaten there by the slower one. Went between bat and pad, wandered through on the bounce to Gilchrist down the line of the leg stump there. As England hang in here at the tail. Didn't miss anything by much. Just went through between bat and pad and over the leg stump. Just bounced enough. But there's not a lot of thrilling bounce in this pitch for the quick men. And you wonder what'll happen when England get to bowl on it. They'll have a new ball, which helps, but after that gets tough. Gillespie bowls near the line of the pads. Yes, says Jones, let's have a single as he played the ball quietly on the offside. And Lee trotted in from cover. 9 for 388. Jones moves to 9 with Hoggard on 7. So Trescothick made 90, Strauss 48, Vaughan 24, Bell 6, then Flintoff 68, Jones 1, Peterson 71, Giles 23, and Harmison 17. And Gillespie getting his first wickets of the series here, and his second wicket brought up 250 in Test cricket. He's moving away towards Hoggard. Hoggard is back and mainly behind it. pushing it towards cover and Martin to pick up, and they can't score. So Ponting sent England in. You'll be looking at the board now and thinking, well, that's better than it could have been.
Exactly. It could have been, it could have been 5 for 440 by now.
Would have England thrown away an opportunity here because they went a bit too manic?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say that when you've nearly got 400 on the board, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, here's Gillespie bowling to Hoggard. Hoggard keeps the ball out, pushing away on the onside. I mean, they've been obviously caught up about being positive, and that's fine, but don't you need a little bit more selection to build a big score?
England batting-wise, well, the way Flintoff and Peterson play is to go after it hard. Trescothick played beautifully. I think he got a good delivery on the pitch middle, and it was give the bowler some credit for that. He didn't throw his wicket away. Peterson, I think, did. He could have easily got his head down about 100 not out.
Here comes Gillespie. He bowls to Hoggard. It's short. He's not happy about it. He walks into it. It takes him on the glove and bounces away to the offside. Top edge hook.
Well, and once again, when you've been in for a while and it's a really slow-paced pitch, and you are a hooker, you do play the shot, and they also had a square leg out for him because he likes to play the shot. I think you're entitled to go for it. That's being positive. I think it was a good ball to go after. You just got it wrong. So let's give the bowler some credit. It was a terrific catch, but I don't think as a batsman you can look back on that shot and say, I should not have played it. Yes, I should have played it better, but not, I shouldn't have played it at all.
In goes Gillespie. Hoggard pushes away to the offside, and he'll get a run or two through the covers. Clark's in pursuit across the square. Probably 2 had they gone quickly, but they didn't. And that's the completion of the over from Gillespie. 9 for 389. These two have added 14. There's still another 13 overs available here, but 6 o'clock is the cut-off time, just under 45 minutes from now. Hoggard is 8, Jones is 7, and Warne's going to bowl again to try and finish the innings off with 3 for 111 to his name.
What we're seeing here is numbers 9 and 11 playing reasonably comfortably because the pitch is so slow. Obviously the ball's also very old. It's 77 years old. It's not that difficult to play the seamers, but there's not a lot of pace and bounce that worries tail enders, and they're in behind it, so it is a good batting wicket. And maybe Ponting misread it, and Bourne said he would have batted had he won the toss. So no change.
Warne to Hoggard. Hoggard forward, beaten by the leg break, just pushing down the line. Maybe he's savvy enough against Warne to know that was the leg break and didn't really go hard at it. There's a slip and an under the nose on the offside. Backward point, squarish cover. Then a mid-off, a mid-on, mid-wicket. Deep backward square and a man on the sweep at short, fine leg. Ponting's around the corner there, almost looking down the line from his angle. He watches Hoggard go forward. He's beaten. Went to drive. And the ball dipped and turned and missed the outside edge. So Warne's not having much luck here. He's fizzed past the outside edge of these two on half a dozen occasions.
Now that was a good delivery. Drifted in, turned away. Wasted on Lee, lad.
And he's bringing in Martin to Gully. 9 for 389. Warne bowls. Hoggard stabs forward again. Keeps the ball out and away. Martin's picking up in close. And the other factor the Weather Bureau talked about here later in the day was the light, which is okay at the moment, but there is some heavier cloud shifting about. So another 20 minutes or so, it may be a little dark for continuation of play. But stubbornness from Hoggard. Warne bowls to him, and he sweeps, but he doesn't get a run because it short, fine leg. Ponting is quickly collecting the ball. Ashley Giles played a good little innings, but he went to the well once too often on the sweep. Warne was denied twice for shouts that looked palpable. Out. But the third one, it was given, which looked less out than the others. Anyway, Warne got his man. Forward goes Hoggard to a quicker ball from Warne, and it travels away to Martin, who's there in the gully. So there's a contrasting inactivity at the moment after frenetic batting for most of the day. Fours being pounded everywhere. Lots of sixes. It was the Scarborough Festival. Warne tosses right up and he drives this and drives it through the covers for 4. Well, Warne's patience lost out there. He tossed up and Hoggard's played an excellent stroke to the cover boundary to move to 12, and we're into the 390s. 9 for 393. So they're almost there. I can't recall England getting 400 on the first day of a test against Australia. They've done it against other teams, but against Australia, I don't think it's occurred. Anyway, Gillespie's going to try and stop them as he gets ready for another over.
No, it's been a wonderful and exhilarating display by England, and batting's been terrific. Pitch has behaved itself for the most part. So where do we assess the Australian bowling today? I wouldn't say it was poor. There hasn't been too many bad bowls delivered. There's just been some wonderful batting.
Now it's Gillespie to Jones. Jones swings into this and hits it for 6 over mid-off. Tremendous shot. He's driven Gillespie way over mid-off and into the crowd away to our right. 6 number 10 for the day. And it's 9 for 399.
I've got to have a look at one of these cricket bats. And that, it looked like when he hit it, he'd mistimed it, because it wasn't to the pitch of it. It was a good length ball, and Jones didn't have a big flay at it, just hit it through the line. It's gone for 6.
Gillespie goes in again, and he gets a bouncer. He's probably ready for it. Went across and away outside the line of the off stump. Well, that must be another first. It could not have been the first day of a test match with 10 sixes. I think this has already been the highest score by a team sent in on the first day of a test. All sorts of records, but it's all amazing cricket to watch. The way these two teams have torn into each other on the opening day of each of the first 2 tests. England's rapid, intimidatory bowling at Lord's. And now they're batting, taking Australia on. Gillespie bowls. Jones tries to fiddle it away, misses it down the leg side as Gillespie went for a little variation. And the crowd waiting to go into another burst of applause for the 400.
And will Michael Vaughan call them in, the 400? We said, OK, the 400, that's good in today's play. Australia, we'll come and have a bowl at you. That's another little psychological taunt. I mean, I'd be tempted to if I was the captain.
Interesting.
There's 2 instructions you've got to give. Keep playing shots, just get after them. Otherwise, you're just wasting this nice little period to have a bowl, or declare. Get the 400. Say, well done, Ricky, send us in. Now it's your turn to have a bat today.
Gillespie at Jones. Jones swings again. He hits it in the air. He's hit it over the head of the man at mid-off, away to the boundary. Langer couldn't get to it. He chases it back, cuts it off. They take a couple, and the 400s come up. 400 in a day. And the crowd applauding England here. They should probably applaud themselves for coming along for this day, for seeing a day like this in Test cricket. Exhilarating cricket. He's just cleared Langer standing back at mid-off as Gillespie bowls again. A slower ball, and it's bumped away behind square by Jones. He gets another run, and he moves along to 18. And it's 9 for 402. And the Gillespie still has 1 more to come. And there are another 11 overs available tonight. So England, yes, 400 in a day. Trescothick the top scorer with 90. An opening stand of 112. A partnership of 103. In about an hour of batting between Peterson and Flintoff. As Gillespie bowls and Hoggard goes back and punches it through the covers, and it's going away to the boundary. Clark can't cut it off. Another 4.
Let Matthew Hoggard or Kevin Peterson hit that. That was a high quality stroke.
13 runs from the over, and England have now added 31 for the last wicket. Hoggard with that superb stroke is 16 and Jones 18. A feast of batting at 9 for 406. As a weary-looking Warne peels off his jumper for another over.
Yes, but knowing Shane Warne, he'll be dying to get the last wicket here to give him 4 for. No declaration, a little bit disappointing. But
well, they're in form. They might get another 20 or 30 here.
Well, yeah, if you're making runs, you may as well get them and not declare. A couple of lovely shots that over.
Now Jones hasn't faced Warne for a couple of overs here, and he's had a couple of close calls just outside the off stump, and he looks around to see a long on, a deep mid wicket, a deep backward square, and now a long off sent out with Kadich under the lid at short leg. Okay, Warne trying to wrap it up. Can Jones delight the crowd again? Jones swings and hammers the ball away down to long on and moves to 19, and the score to 407. 9 for 407. After Ponting had sent England into bat. Still, it's hard to believe what we've seen here today. We were speechless at the end of the first day at Lord's when 17 wickets fell for almost 300 runs. And now this.
They can have a new ball after this over.
Yes.
Well, this one's fairly worn out. I think you're entitled to get another one.
It should be falling apart. Warne bowls to Hoggard. Hoggard sweeps. How's that for LBW? Out! He was struck in front, and Hoggard's racing off the field to get ready to bowl because there will be 8 or 9 overs here, and England have made the most extraordinary first innings total inside the opening day of a test. All out for 407. Warne finishes with 4 for. And I think the Australians will be fairly pleased that England have been dismissed, because at times today it looked like they were going to make a lot more than 407. I'll give you a wrap of the board in a moment, with Hoggard the last man out, leg before, to the bowling of Shane Warne for 16, and Warne finished with 4 for 116 to move within 7 of the big number 600. So sent in, Strauss out, bowled by Warne. The leg break pitching near the edge of the rough. He's on the back foot and hit his off stump. He made 48. They were 1 for 132 at lunch. Trskothic then 77 off 89 balls. He nicked one from Kasparovich to Gilchrist for 90. Vaughan was caught by Lee off Gillespie, top edging a hook after Bell had been caught by Gilchrist from Kasparovich for 6. So they went from 1 for 164 to 4 for 187. And then the exciting, dazzling batting, Flintoff and Peterson. Flintoff out to the first in the first over after tea, caught Gilchrist, bowled Gillespie for 68, which came off just 62 balls with 5 sixes. Jones was caught, Gilchrist bowled Kasparovich for 1. They were then 6 for 293. Then another little revival. Giles, at the third time of asking from Warne, was a leg before for 23, and that was 7 for 342. 8 for 348 with Peterson feeling he was running out of partners. Hold out to Kadich at deep mid-wicket from Lee for 71, his third half century in a row. And then the wicket of Harmison, and after he'd hit Warne down the ground for 6, bowled Warne for 17, and a partnership then of 32 for the last wicket before Hoggard was leg before on the sweep to Warne for 16. Jones was 19. There were 9 leg byes, 1 wide and 14 no balls. 24 extras in that score of 407. So Australia should have 8 overs, Bill? 8 overs to face tonight, unless the light prevents play going through until the close. Or we run out of time because we've got about 25 minutes to play. The England players are out there getting ready for action, and we could still have a very entertaining little period before the end of this amazing first day at Edgbaston. So England dismissed for 407, with Hayden and Langer about to come out. Again, England go for this curious bonding session on the ground. What do you make of all that, Henry, as Jonathan Agnew comes in for the last gasp of the day?
Well, yeah, it's not something I'd do myself, James. But you've just walked out of the dressing room. I don't know why you would gather together and have any further discussion as you walk on the field. It's a little unnecessary, but that's the way of the modern cricketer, Aggers, isn't it? That's what they do, or some teams do.
Huddle, that's what they have, yes.
Well, prayer meeting.
Now, what a session this is. With 25 minutes, I think we can forget the overs remaining 8. We won't have that many, I wouldn't have thought. The light isn't terribly good, and I can see Michael Vaughan there chatting to Rudy Kurtz and saying, now hang on, what do you reckon to this? There's one light on the bad light meter there by the scoreboard, and for people who are unfamiliar with that, one's okay.
Looks like a good light meter to me.
That's a bad light meter. And that one light is, the light's a little bit bad, 2 lights come on, it's quite bad, 3 lights come on, they normally go off. So you can see the sort of territory that we're in here. But what a chance England have here, because speaking of Jeff Boycott has come to see us, he reckons it's a 500 pitch. I think probably most people watching would consider that England at times today were certainly on course to 500, and they, although it's been exhilarating, one of the most scintillating days you could ever wish to see, except it may well end with some drizzle falling. I've just noticed that, actually, a bit of light rain falling. It'd be a real shame, actually, if this were the way that the day is to end, because there's just a setup here of absolute drama. But there is rain falling over the ground at the moment, and I think they're going to go off.
Oh no, please.
Which is
it's hard to sound disappointed, isn't it, after what we've already seen for 80 overs? But
well, I see Matthew Hayden say, no, we're all right batting in this. Umpires, we'll stay out here if you like, but I don't think he's going to for 1 minute, and he's going to wander off, I think. But it's a disappointing, likely end to the day, and the crowd are booing.
That's stumps.
That is stumps. Play has ended when it was all set up.
oh,
And Michael Vaughan looks over his shoulder up at the clouds above, and well, I wonder how important that might be. Who knows what might have happened, but there was a little opportunity there for England really to put Australia on the back foot with a wicket or two. Hayden, well, he's swishing his bat, saying, I'm quite happy to carry on, lads, but I don't think anyone really believes him. And the covers are coming on, they're blowing around in rather blustery fashion, and the rain is coming down really quite steadily. So the spectators booed, very few of them booed, but really they can't have meant that. They've had one of the most exhilarating days of Test cricket that there have been in memory, and Mike Selby's been checking things out, and he reckons that that the nearest, he reckons, that we've seen in this country in recent times were the 437 for 9 that West Indies scored in 1976 in the 4th Test at Headingley. What we don't know in that is how many overs were bowled in the first day, but that's certainly comparable to today. But I think the remarkable thing about today, well, 2 things. A is against Australia, and they don't normally concede that number of runs, and B, that England were put into bat, and you very rarely see a team responding in such a positive fashion when you've been stuck in.
well, there are a couple of factors there. One is the quality of the bowling that 407 were made against, and Australia have clocked up a few 400s against opponents over the last decade or so, but they haven't been facing themselves or quality bowling attacks. And today, okay, McGrath wasn't there, but Gillespie took his 250th wicket. Lee's got 150 odd. Kasprich has got 100 odd. I mean, Warren's got 8 million. We're talking about people who can bowl,
yes.
And yet England score at will most of the day. And folks say you don't make 500, but
What do you put down this remarkable scoring rate of over 5 and over throughout the day? There was, during the afternoon, it was very nearly 6 consistently throughout the afternoon. I mean, is it bad bowling? Is it short boundaries? Is it
lightning outfields?
Positive passing?
Yeah, but all of that. It's all of those things. When the outfields these days seem to me absolutely lightning. The forward defence you go through cover for 4, much as they used to go on some of the subcontinental grounds that were hard. Now they mow this outfield down super short, so the batsmen are getting full value. You don't strike it through the covers and run a hard 2 or a 3, it just races away the boundaries. So that's a part of it, yes, and the boundaries are in, and the bats seem to hit the ball further, so that's all a part of that sort of scenario that gets you to 400 runs in a day's play. So they all count a little bit, but we've seen some marvellous batting. Maybe the bowling, I don't know, I guess, don't we see bowlers concentrate on maidens as much as perhaps they used to? I mean, I didn't see one single over today where 6 balls were bowled on a good length at off stump, and defence was necessary against all 6 deliveries. There seemed to be always a couple of semi-loose balls coming along, but then batsmen are conditioned these days to a lot of one-day cricket, so they do play more shots. There's no doubt about that batsmen take more risks these days.
Well, in a day's test cricket, you'd expect more than 11 overs to be maidens, wouldn't you? Generally?
Yeah, generally.
That's all we've had today.
Well, what's that? Well, about let's say 1 in 8. It's less than that, but 1 in 8, that's 2 an hour. That's 2 an hour. That's 4 a session. Yeah. You should expect to see.
You'd expect more than that, wouldn't you? That's all we've had today. It's been one of the most exhilarating days cricket I can remember, but I still wonder at the end of it, when you sit back and reflect on the cold light of the day, and you take out the 5.13 per over, you take out the 79.2 overs, you take out the 6 runs per over between lunch and tea. You also take out, actually, the fact that England were put in. I mean, that's now irrelevant, really. I wonder who will settle back tonight and say, well, actually, we're in the best position.
No, I think England definitely will. So. They got 400 on the board, and I don't think that the toss and its psychological advantage or disadvantage, I don't think matters much now at stumps, because the wicket played pretty well.
Yeah.
And if the wicket had seemed all over the place and England still got 400, well, then Australia would be saying, well, weren't we poor today? But I don't think they were all that poor. I just think England batted beautifully, and let's face it, Trescothick and Strauss got them away to a good start. Okay, there was a drop catch and a no ball, but those things happen when you open the batting. But they played fairly orthodoxly. They weren't playing a lot of big shots. They played the drives and the cuts, but they weren't hitting the ball over the top, were they? I mean, it was just fairly orthodox opening batting,
well timed,
with an aggressive intent, but not silly batting, not reckless batting.
The covers are on. The shower has, I think, almost passed. It's a shame, isn't it, that a potentially really exciting 25 minutes have gone. They have gone forever, because that is the end of play for the day. I don't suppose Australia's openers will be particularly upset. I was interested by Hayden's reaction there. I mean, he wasn't scuttling back to the pavilion, was he? He was sort of walking almost backwards back to the pavilion, I think, trying to say a message to England's bowlers. I don't want to go, I'm happy to face you chaps. I'll do it in the rain. But
that's a part of the bravado, isn't
indeed.
it? I think he'd be quite happy to be sitting down inside and stumps having been called.
Absolutely right. So the covers are on, and they're going to be weighed down. The pitch will be put away for the night, and we will, of course, regroup tomorrow for, well, who knows what. I mean, the Australians hardly bat quietly, do they? I mean, can we seriously expect anything like this again, I wonder?
It's a possibility. I don't know whether it's a probability, but it's a possibility that Australia will. Look, I don't think the pitch should be much different tomorrow. I mean, you're local, you live in the country, but I mean, I can't see that pitch changing too much tomorrow. We didn't have a lot of sun beating down on it,
no, exactly,
sucking any moisture out
Absolutely
of it.
Right. That's the key issue, isn't it? What would be interesting will be to go out and have a look tomorrow and to see if there are any little marks that have been made by the ball. I thought a couple kept low, and the one that Jones got bounced a little more. And
yes, it's just the odd ball, wasn't it? And even one Trescothick nicked actually seemed a long way, but it was just the odd ball for the day. And the pitch played reasonably well. I think the groundsman would be quite happy after the dramas he's had earlier on in the week with the mini tornado and the rain that was on the pitch. I mean, I think he'd be resting almost as comfortable as anybody tonight.
It's funny, wasn't it? I mean, he really was worried in the build-up to this game, wasn't he? He was for Steve Rouse. He was having
groundsmen, they get it's their child out there that they nurture it and bring it along, and they want it to behave its best. And when outside influences intervene, I mean, they don't get very happy. They get very protective of their creations, and that's fair enough. That's why we get test pitches that are not sort of created; they are nurtured.
Well, we might have time this evening to bring you some player reaction after this extraordinary day. I know Jim Maxwell is down there hovering around outside the players' dressing rooms. It'd be nice to get some sort of word about Glenn McGrath too. The last we heard was that he had, what's it called, second degree strain or tear rather to his ligaments in his ankle. I don't quite understand. It gets more and more specialised and more complicated. All this, but
it's
the fact is, I think tear is the key word there.
Not quite as bad as a third degree.
No.
Worse than a first degree. That's helped nobody.
But a tear would be worse than a sprain, presumably.
I would think so. Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Torn ligaments aren't.
Looking at the way that it's all virtually back-to-back Test matches now, I mean, there must be a chance that he's out of the series.
Well, I think it'd be absolutely no chance of playing next Test, or even maybe the fourth, or maybe somewhat of a chance to be back at the end of the series when the Ashes may be on the line, Jonathan.
Well, I was going to ask you as my follow-up, and what sort of impact, if he is to be really struggling and could miss the rest of the series, what sort of impact might that have on this series, do you think?
I think it gives, first of all, England a significant psychological boost. When the man's got 500 Test wickets, he destroyed them at Lords. He was absolutely outstanding there, and if he's not in the lineup, Australia can't be as good. Therefore, England must feel happy about it. And Australia, who have some capable lieutenants, don't have perhaps the quality that Glenn McGrath presents. So if you're missing an absolutely top-shelf champion, your side must be weaker, and England must feel happier for that.
But putting feeling happy aside, as far as bookmakers are concerned, would they be reassessing their odds now as far as the series is concerned?
Well, I haven't rung them today, although I did back Marcus Trescothick to be the top scorer in England's innings, so I'm feeling quite happy about that. However, I did not check the odds. But yeah, I'm sure with McGrath not in the lineup, it affects...
Would have an impact.
How they, particularly after today's play. The odds may have changed from this morning to this afternoon, with England making 400 in a day, and the bookmakers may think, well, Australia are not as capable a bowling side with Glenn McGrath not in the side.
OK, let's go down and join Jim Maxwell. Jim?
Thanks, Aggers. Michael Kasparovich is with me. An extraordinary day of Test cricket. How did you rate what went on out there? What was going on out there? It was manic. They were scoring at 5 and over all day.
What was extraordinary was a start, I suppose. I've turned up expecting just to have a pretty leisurely day of coffee and cake, and ended up having to play a Test match. All good, of course. It was amazing. The wicket was quite slow, a little on the low side, and just see the way that if you did hit short of a length, the ball just sat up. So you had to, I suppose, it dragged your length a touch fuller. That being the case, we saw a few drives, and it was a bit of 4 or nothing out there.
So was the captain misreading the pitch and setting England in?
Oh no, I think it was a bit tacky at the start. So I suppose it's a new wicket from what we're used to. We haven't seen anything like that, and haven't played here. And I think too, like being honest, most of the bowlers will walk away thinking that we didn't bowl as well as we possibly could, and I think we'd much rather use that as a reason than certainly any pitches.
Did you feel a little underdone today? I mean, that'd be no surprise given that Glenn was a rather unfortunate late withdrawal.
Oh, I think no, I didn't actually, because we've just played. I got the fixture. I played the game in Worcester, so having played there, I think that was good. Obviously, sitting down the first Test, but I think what was a little bit strange was just, I suppose, for everyone. No, I got no idea now. Now it's raining and they've got the umbrella. Yeah, can we start that one again?
Yeah, Michael Slater's got the umbrella for us.
Sorry, I was waffling.
So just review at the end of the day. You're happy enough to be in this position with England dismissed for 407, given that they were sent in?
Well, I think potentially they could have been more, and I think it was just an amazing day of Test cricket. The way that the ball kept finding the fence, and like you said, to get 5 runs plus and over for the entire day of cricket. To be, as a bowler, to be off the field and us batting, I think that's a good result.
And how is Glenn McGrath? What's the story there?
Well, it's all bandaged up. It doesn't look too good. Talking to him, I think they had a scan, just an X-ray, and I think that there's no break. But you'd have to speak to the physio about all that.
Michael, thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Well done, 3 for 80.
Thanks, mate.
And the only bowler not to be hit for 6 today, which is quite something. I think we may get to hear from the England camp in a moment as well. Andrew Flintoff, I see, doing the rounds down there. I think he's going to television first. No, he's coming our way first, so it'll be great. Andrew Flintoff, who scored 68 today for only 62 balls, and terrific big hitting, and I think he's with Jim now. Jim?
Yes, Andrew Flintoff is here. So you were one of the explosive batsmen of the day, 5 of the 10 sixes. Have you ever played in today's cricket quite like that?
It's been quite bizarre, I think, to score at that rate we did today, and score 400 in the day. Was a great effort. It was nice. We could have gone and got a big 100, but after last week, we come back where we scored 400 in a day, and now hopefully get the ball in the right areas and try and take a few early wickets.
What do you think of the pitch, though? 407 looks healthy, is it?
Yeah, I think so. 400 is always a good score. The wicket started damp. He was going to bat on it. It was quite flat, even though it was a bit slow. And hopefully it's going to dry out, and some of the dents in that will come into play a little bit more, and maybe go a bit more uneven as the game goes on.
England obviously wanted to be positive out there. You think really in the looking at the board, though, you really got the result you wanted, that there was a pitch where if you're able to get longer partnerships, you would have been able to sustain it much better than you did?
I did. Probably we would have wanted a few more, but coming off the back of last week, we didn't score too many runs. 400 is a competitive total. It gives something for the bowlers to bowl at. So when we come out tomorrow morning, we've got 400 behind us, and hopefully take some early wickets.
Tell me about playing Shane Warne. What was going through your mind? Because it looked as though he was deceiving you occasionally, yet you biffed him for a few sixes.
He's tricky, isn't he? He's got 580 odd wickets, or whatever he's got. He's a fine bowler, and going in cold against him is hard. I've not played against him very often. And as you say, he does bamboozle you from time to time. A few went through my legs, and I nicked a few. But the longer you bat out there, I wouldn't say it gets easier, but it gets easier.
Were you reading him?
Yeah, I think so, now and then. The odd one did fox me a little bit. But I've been working on it last week, trying to play against more leg spin, and we've had the bowling machine up. So probably went out with probably a more positive and definite game plan today.
It's an interesting psychological situation, isn't it? Michael Vaughan said he would have batted. England was sent in. And if you win the toss and bat and make 407, how pleased can you be with the effort?
Yeah, we got off to a good start. Marcus and Andrew Strauss, the top of the order, started well. Probably that set the tone for the rest of the day. Nice to bat with Kevin. Managed to put a few runs on in good time. As you say, ideally we could have spent a bit more time together, but over 400 is a decent score.
Andrew, thanks for your time. We look forward to some more good cricket tomorrow.
Cheers, thanks.
Thanks very much to Andrew Flintoff and to Sarah Botham too down there as well, holding the Sky Sports umbrella for us. I think they're worth a mention of that because it's raining really quite heavily here at Edgbaston. Play has finished for the day, and however disappointed the crowd may have been when the umpires decided that was it, they can't complain now. It really is raining pretty heavily, and there's no way they could be playing in this. So as a reminder, if you are joining us, England, who ascended to bat, scored 407 today. That only tells a fraction of the story, really. They scored those runs in less than 80 overs. They scored at over 5 runs per over. 10 sixes and 54 fours were hit today. In the course of that, Trescothick made 90 from 102 balls. He and Strauss were on 112 for the first wicket. Vaughan made 24, Strauss 48. Bell made 6. There'll be some discussion about that, I suppose. Jeff Lawson sitting beside me out third ball.
Wasn't a bad delivery.
No.
You know, that's a tick in the box for a bowler, I think. Particularly when a batsman gets dismissed early and you're not sure whether he's in. If he gets 20 or 30, then you say, well, what are you doing, lad? But I think give the bowler some credit for a useful delivery.
OK. Peterson and Flintoff came together at that point, at least when Vaughan was out on 187 for 4. We wondered how they would play. Well, they played magnificently. I suppose in one or two newspapers tomorrow we might hear or see suggestions that one was trying to outdo the other, but I thought Peterson actually was quite happy to play second fiddle while Flintoff bashed it about.
Absolutely. I thought Peterson played beautifully. He got his head down early on when they lost a few wickets. He let the ball go. He defended well, just as he did at Lords. I thought he played brilliantly. He got out to a shot I don't think he should have played, but gee, when he's on a roll, he's got to keep hitting it. You don't get better entertainment than that. Yes, England might have got a few more, however, gee, it's a tough school if you can't satisfy the headmaster on that performance.
Yeah. I'm beating a probably rather quiet drum about him moving up the order of place, not because of I've got any particular worries about Bell, but just because Peterson, I think, is a sort of player who just needs time at the crease. I mean, he's just running out of batsmen at the moment, isn't he?
Well, most importantly, he's in form. He's the one who's made 350s in a row. So why not get him up there and face some more deliveries? Fair enough, Eggers, I'm with you.
Good man. Very aggrieved. I like that. Peterson made 71. Flintoff, we've just heard from, 68 from 62 balls. He hit 6 fours and 5 sixes. Geraint Jones 1. He got a good one that bounced a little bit. Giles 23. And then the tail all chipped in. Hoggard, didn't he hit a 4? He made 16. Harmison 17. He hit a 6. And so did Simon Jones, who's out for 19. 407 all out. Lee went for 14 fours and 5 sixes. Gillespie 14 fours and a 6. Shane Warne 13 fours and 4 sixes. It's been an absolutely remarkable day of Test cricket.